oh, we had to get this, we had to get this, we had to get
I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of the Niles Main District Library on February 19th at 7:02 p.m. Sorry, Margaret.
You're fine. You're absolutely fine.
She said 7:02, just so you know.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's get started. Trustee Kadir?
Present.
Trustee Jurlik?
Present.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
Here.
Chairman Patello?
Present.
Secretary Krasinski?
Here.
Vice President Schulko?
Here.
And President Hughes.
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I don't have anyone on the list signed up for public comment, but would anyone in the room like to make public comment? No? I do have one submitted comment that I will read. And this is from Elliot Osherman. Good evening, board. This is Elliot Osherman. Unfortunately, a prior commitment precludes my physical attendance tonight in time to make my comments personally. I have submitted these comments in advance to your executive director for her to read to you. I have, as usual, submitted copies of these comments to her as well for distribution so that you may follow along. I hope to be here in person approximately 7:45 or 8 p.m. First of all, I would like to stress the importance of the public coming out to vote, either in early voting at the Niles Village Hall or at the Des Plaines Library. This should start approximately March 17th, or regular voting in person on Tuesday, April 1st at an individual's regular polling place. A large turnout reflects that the community is paying attention to what happens in library elections. Second, I would like to thank the library staff for purchasing a work of fiction entitled "This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things." I have attached a copy of the front cover for the board's edification. Thank you and good night. Just to inform the board, we did not receive a copy, as he mentioned in his comments, so I'm not sure what that would look like.
And that's all?
That's it.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the minutes. Should we do it after? I guess we could do that now.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move 11A, the ILE trustee learning portal presentation, up to number 4, please.
Second.
Vice President Schulko motioned and Trustee O'Meara second, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Valerie, would she be ready?
Mm-hmm. She's set up already. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dr. Furby, are you there?
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
And if you could please introduce yourself, Dr. Furby.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Leanne Furby. I am the project director for the ILE trustee portal, learning portal that the state of Illinois has put together for all trustees from the top of the state to the bottom of the state. I am with the Illinois Heartland Library System, so I am housed down in the lower half of the state where we are enjoying not only the cold temperatures like you, but also some snow, some ice, and they don't really prepare for those things like they did or they do up there in the Chicago area. I grew up in the northern suburbs, so I appreciate a good snowplow and wish we had those down here. But anyway, I apologize for not being able to be there with you in person this evening. I don't know, how many of you are familiar or have heard about the iLead Trustee Learning Portal before? If I could just get a show of hands.
I've heard of it.
Okay, so about 2.5, 3 years ago, there was a grant written to create this learning portal. It's built inside of Canvas, which is a learning management system. So it's built like an online course. Only difference is that you have access to it 24/7, 365. And each year I put in a grant application to request additional funding, not only to increase the number of licenses, but also because we keep adding new content to the portal as well. This portal, as you're going to see and talk about, and when you go in and start to navigate through it yourself, you're going to find has information in there that is valuable not only to you if you're a new trustee, but also to seasoned trustees. We make sure this is a project that is collaborative with the state library, so I go up and see them a couple times a year, let them review it, make sure that they see all the information that's in there. We also talk about what else needs to be added, and of course, if there are any changes throughout the year, we get those updated as quickly as possible. The portal is vetted by an attorney and also other trustees throughout the state of Illinois, like I said, the state library, the library system. So everybody gets to put their hand in the pot, give it a stir, and make sure that we're getting you all the most accurate and current information that we can. Rather than just talk to you about it, what I'm going to do is we have a short demo video that we're going to go ahead and play. That'll give you the overview of it, and then I'm going to take you to the website to show you how to register, and then we'll look at the portal itself. I have 15 minutes, Valerie tells me, or less, so we're going to do this at a speedy pace.
Dr. Furby, if you need more time, no problem.
It's good. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for your time, dedication, service, and passion for one of the most significant places in a community. I have never been in a library in Illinois that I did not love. As a trustee, you are the pillar that keeps our libraries standing. Recently, Dr. Leanne Furby gave me a voice so I could share that she has the best job ever. The Illinois Heartland Library System hired her over 2 years ago to work with iLead project visionary Anna Yackel in a collaborative effort to design and develop a training portal for all trustees. Many of you know that Anna retired this past June after working in Illinois libraries for over 40 years. The iLead portal was Anna's parting project to the library community. In her last post, Anna wrote that this portal was designed as a gift to trustees to support and empower them, and the vital work they do for their library and community. Why iLead? Because it is a one-stop free resource for informing all Illinois library trustees. Informed trustees provide better library governance. Better governance leads to better libraries. Better libraries help improve their communities. The mission of the iLead portal is to provide Illinois public library trustees with the knowledge they need to be successful. In year one, our expert contributors, Becky Spratford, Christine Westerland, Kathy Pottle, and Thomas Stagg provided us with their knowledge and wisdom for the initial portal topics. The modules included ethical principles, Illinois trustee requirements, how to conduct an OMA-compliant meeting, library trustee 101, board operations, and policy making. In year two, we had another fantastic group of individuals who contributed their expertise. Here's our lineup of new modules added in year two. In building and maintenance, a familiar name in the Illinois library world, Kathy Parker, tells trustees one of their primary responsibilities is to ensure there are enough financial resources to run the library, and that those funds are spent responsibly. This means trustees need an understanding of where and how those funds are being spent to help ensure fiscal responsibility. The library facility is your largest physical asset, and a significant portion of the library's budget will be spent on it, depending on the age and condition of the building. In community engagement, Anna Yackel reminds trustees that their job continues beyond the library's door. Trustees also represent the library in the community and should engage in farmers markets, backyard gatherings, and community events. Library boards may want members to do a little word-of-mouth marketing and talk about what is happening at the library and how it serves the community. This can be a pleasant way to serve the library and catch up with friends and acquaintances. Judy Hoffman has coordinated communication and partnership projects at the local, regional, and state levels, as well as positions at the North Suburban Library System and the American Library Association, and as a community volunteer. In this module, trustees learn the importance of internal and external communications, the components of a plan, and the steps for effective implementation. In Finance for Public Libraries, Jamie Racklin of Meristem Advisors and our legal reviewer, Phil Linzini, share the financial basics to keep library operations healthy. This financial module provides a framework for organizing, executing, and monitoring the library's financial activities. Jamie and Phil then drill down to look at finance matters for the library districts. In Planning for the Future, Amanda Standifer discusses the benefits of setting a long-term vision for your library, with strategic and succession plans that will guide operations and decision-making to ensure trustees effectively serve their community. Other new features and functionality were introduced in Year 2. We wanted to learn more about our users and continue to adapt the portal to all of you. So, the first time you log into the portal, we have created a short quiz that includes important questions like your role, your library type, and how you learned about iLead. We have added a keyword search bar at the top of every page. You might recall the videos were not available in all 12 languages last year, but now they are. You will find the content pages have links to PDFs for easy printing. The ILA days and dates are now easily identified by your library type. And last year, we had an individual from the iLead presentation ask me if we had linked the statutes so they would be easy to find. We have since created those links to the Illinois General Assembly, so you will always see the most current information. Are you ready to go take a look? Click on the QR code and visit the iLead portal now.
So thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and take you to the public website now, and let's see how that works out.
Dr. Furby, did you share your screen?
Yes, let me.
Sounds like she's working on it.
All right. Are you seeing the screen now?
Yep.
Great. So www.ileadtrustee.org is the home website for the portal. What you'll find here when you visit is, of course, just some general information about the portal itself. You'll notice over to the right that we always have these updates that are going on. I try to post here important dates that are coming up, reminders for you, any information that is specific to trustees, specifically here within the state. We also have an FAQ page with information. Now, I haven't received a lot of questions for the FAQ, but if I do receive those questions, we'll post those and the responses here. You'll also find that here outside of the portal, we do keep a list of resources for you. These resources are those that are referenced by our content experts who write the content, but also from other trustees and librarians who have said, this is my favorite reference to use with our trustees, or this is a reference that I found that was really helpful. So we keep building that list. If you have a favorite reference or resource that you like to use or refer to, please feel free to share it with us, and we'll make sure to share it with all the other trustees. I'm gonna skip over register for just a moment and talk about becoming a trustee. So if you have individuals who are interested in joining your board or individuals who you would like to tap for the board, one of the pieces of information that we were asked to provide early on was to talk about how to become a trustee. So that is what this particular link is all about. It'll tell you why you want to be a trustee, those benefits of serving, what qualifications you need to run. It talks about library trustee elections being nonpartisan. There's also a link directly to the Illinois candidate portal with all the information from state board elections. And then just general information about the appointment or election process depending upon your library type. We do offer a schedule of visits. That's how this meeting came about this evening. Because you can schedule this 15-minute demo, or we also offer a half-day board orientation session beginning this spring for new trustees. My favorite part is calendar and registration. This is actually a calendar that will show you all those dates, and you have some important dates coming up as trustees. So I'm not certain if you all are familiar with the ILA Trustee Forum webinars, but there are 4 of those that happen in the spring, March, April, May, and June. Those dates are all on here, along with a link to those registrations. It's a Saturday morning, it's 2 hours. I do give a brief explanation of what those topics will be and who their speaker and moderator will be. So those are through the ILA. You'll also see here an ILE Trustee Training Portal system-wide workshop that we provide on Saturdays for Zoom. That is a more in-depth type workshop where I go through. Sometimes we have 2 people and we walk through the modules together or look at the information that they're seeking. Or sometimes we have 20 people who are there on a Saturday, in which case I just do the general overview and take them through the first 2 modules within the portal. This is also a great place if you have questions, if there's information that you're looking for, if you're having difficulty with the portal for some reason, feel free to jump in, join us on this workshop. I'm happy to answer all those questions there. So I'm gonna hop back here to register. Register gives you the 4 steps you need in order to get to the portal. So the first thing that you'll need is to have an L2 login name and password. So Valerie would be able to help assist you if you need to create that account through L2. We also have links here that have a video that was provided by Rails for how to create your L2 account. If you prefer to follow along in a step-by-step, there's also a link here for creating that user account. Once you have your L2 account, then you'll be able to go in and out of the portal. It's just a simple authentication. We only allow those individuals with L2 accounts within the state of Illinois. So trustees, directors, some staff members go and visit as well. But that is your key into the portal. And you'll see right here at the top right, there's a button that says portal login. And when you click this portal login, the first thing it's going to do is it'll take you to the L2 Pay login page. You'll put in your login name and password, and then it will take you to your L2 course. Now, for those of you who do not yet have an L2 account, is there anyone without an L2 account? Okay. So one of the things that you need is will be to have an email address. I'm just putting this out there because I give this little spiel to everyone. It would be best if you do not already have an email address that you use specifically for your trustee business, that you go ahead and create that. You can, get a free email account in Gmail or.
All of our trustees have emails through the library, so that's.
Okay, perfect. Then I don't need to tell you about making sure you keep things separate for FOIA purposes. So awesome. When you first click and go into the course, you'll remember from the video, it talks about there's that little 7-question demographic quiz. This is only a one-time thing. You can skip. You don't necessarily have to answer all the questions if you don't want to, or you can, click no response sort of thing to get through. But this is really helpful to me because then I know who my audience is that I'm continuing to create content for and continuing to create the instruction. So that is the purpose. We don't use this information for any other purpose other than to say, we had X number of directors and I report I have X number of directors, I had X number of trustees. I do not report individual information to the state. It's all just general information and counts for them. But this is really for me so that I can make a better portal for you. The demo talked about that keyword search. So if you want to jump in here just for the purpose of, hey, I really would need to know information about, we're reviewing our strategic plan. So let's just look at a strategic plan. You could just type in strategic plan up here and guess it didn't like my uppercase. Up in the keyword search, and the keyword search will show you all the links to everywhere that is discussed here within the portal. So there's kind of a shortcut there to take. You'll also find that there are announcements. These announcements, again, are just like those announcements on the website. This is for information that is specific to trustees, keeping it in a timely fashion. So here's that, registering for the trustee forum webinars again. When there is a new library law or rule that comes into effect, I'll let you know about those. Otherwise, I try to really keep the announcements to a minimum. It will send you a message, an email to that email account and let you know that there is a new announcement. It'll actually tell you what the announcement is so that you can read it right there and not log back into the portal. So if you're not familiar with an online course, think of modules as chapters. Each one of these each module / chapter is defined here in the list for you. So, and the system will track as you go through and view the different pages. You'll see this little green check mark these check marks will start to appear. Once you have completed a module, you will earn this final check mark at the top, and also you'll earn a badge. So for every badge that you earn, it's saved over here in your badges. I think this is it, right? So you can see this individual, these are the badges that are possible. This Wilma here, she's behind, so she's not really completed her badges yet, but this is what I use as my demo account. And so I clear her information out, in and out, so that you can see those.
They didn't have internet back then, did they?
I think I took all her badges away so that I would be able to start over again with a new demo. But these obviously switch to earned as you go along and you earn those badges. We do not report those badges to anyone. That is your information. If you'd like to share that information with your director, I am looking for the first board whose all those members have earned all those badges. So as you're earning your badges, let Valerie know, because she wants to be that first board, and you guys get all that recognition from the Secretary of State. So that's a goal for you to go for. clicking through here, you're gonna find this really easy to use. It's going to be as simple as, we'll get started here in the welcome module. It starts out with a greeting video, just like a video like you saw earlier. And this is just, you can previous and next. It lets you know where you're going when you do that. So we can go backwards, we can go forwards. Like I said, you can also just go to the modules and click if there's a particular topic or module that you'd like to look at or review. There's no particular way that you have to go through to complete the portal. This is really, use it the best way for you. If you are interested in using the portal in those different languages, learning in your preferred language is the page that you would like to visit. It tells you how to go about doing that. We have all the videos and the scripts for those videos have been translated. If your language isn't there, just drop me an email, let me know, and I'll get it transcribed and translated for you. We talked about those badges, that's what's up next. So there's kind of what those look like. FAQs here, in particular about pertaining to the portal itself. If you have questions, please email me or call me. I'm happy to take those calls or emails anytime. Then the topics just kind of go in order. So there's the welcome, and here is you'll find that there's content with reminders, right? So your Bill of Rights, your freedom to read, the freedom to view. We have a history of the public library. I'm going to click on this because what I want to show you is that there are links throughout the portal. If the arrow goes off to the right, it's an external link. If it happens to be one that goes down, these here, these are going to take you to a resource within the portal itself. So you'll find most modules have a video to share that content on that topic with you. I've kept these to 5 to 10 minute chunks, so keeping it quick for you to go through. If you're an individual who likes to read along, you don't want to watch the video, you want to read the content from the video, there's always a link to that video script. Everything opens up just right here inside the portal. So it'll pop up as a PDF. You can do the same thing with these PDFs that you can do with, any other PDF that you work with. So you can download it, you can print it, feel free to share it. All this information is out there to be resources for trustees. When you click the close in the top right, it's going to take you right back to that page. So, the about the course, the welcome. The next thing up is ethical principles. There's a review in here. If you are not familiar with the Illinois State Official and Employee Ethics Act, I strongly recommend that this is the place that you start. We want to keep you out of jail. We want to keep you from being fined. So make sure that you're in compliance with that act. We also have all the information in here for your requirements. You guys are all here in the meeting, so you've taken your oath of office. But this is also where you can find the information to do your training on the Open Meeting Act, your annual sexual harassment prevention training. Don't forget, May 1st, your statements of economic interest are due. So there's the links and the forms here for you to get that taken care of. There's also a link to the FOIA training. The next module is all about how to conduct an OMA compliant board meeting. Then we look at Library Trustee 101, your roles and what to expect. There's a module on board operation, so tips for better board meeting, your special committees. There's a section in this particular module that you can review that covers the advice for hiring and managing library director, doing those annual reviews. if you have vacancies on your board, what you need to do and how to handle those. There's specifically a link to a form here that the state of Illinois requires that you complete. So we have that there. Jump and talk as fast as I can. Building and maintenance, facilities 101. There's a list there for your annual facilities check for you to look at and follow. Community engagement. There's a section in here about developing a communication plan, and your board may already have a communication plan, but it's always good to do an annual review of that communication plan, make sure everybody is familiar with it, if you need to make any changes or updates. The finance section. So there's information in here for all public library trustees, but also then specific to district if you're looking for that kind of information. We'll be adding in the content right now is being written all about TIFs, so all about TIFs will be coming soon. Also, your strategic plans and your succession plans, again, you may already have those, but going in, doing an annual review of those and what they should include. There's a module on policy making that looks at the introduction to policies and bylaws and what those differences are. And there's examples from different libraries that you can refer to if you're in the process of doing that annual review of your bylaws and policies. Then that section, again, those resources are listed here again for you. And then most importantly, my favorite part of this, send me a dozen roses. And the way you send me a dozen roses is you complete the course feedback form. Again, it's just a couple of questions. You don't want to fill out the form? That's great. Just drop me an email. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you would like to see added. Questions that you may have as you're going through the portal, because this is a dynamic project. This is all about growing this resource so that it has everything that you guys need to be the best trustees that you can be. Any questions for me?
I just wish this had existed when I began on the board. It would have been a lifesaver.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I'm so
Yes.
happy about this. This is wonderful.
I'm really excited about it. I was just up in Springfield this last Friday, meeting with the state library, talking about, I don't know if you're familiar with the administrative admin ready reference that they have, but as people have been going to that, they've come to me and said, this information that's out of date, is this correct, is that not correct? So one of the things that we talked about is doing an update and adding that reference in here. I'm also in the process of adding the standards, so you may or may not know that the next standard publication is not going to be in print. It is going to all be online, so I will be I'm doing it now in the background, is adding a module that's called the standards, and we'll have the links to all the standards for you.
Dr. Furby, is there a timeline for that?
So typically what we do is I plan the year so that everything, we start the fiscal year in July, whatever that plan has been that I had submitted to the grant application, we work on that content all year long, and then go in and at the ILA conference in October is when we kind of do the big reveal. Except in those cases where it's information that you guys need right away. So like, I've already put the new days and dates document in there, and you'll see that there's 3 different links to it. You can choose the days and dates for your particular library type. The annual library requirements was added ahead of time. So as that content becomes available, you know, it gets sent to me. I have to put it into the portal itself after I've designed how it's going to be delivered to the trustees. It goes through the advisory committee, it goes through the state board, then it goes to legal. So by the time we get to that process, we're really back around again to July 1st, which is why it's not typically released till September. But if it's something, like I said, if it's a change in law, it's a change in policy, it's information that we need to get out to you right away, I'll go ahead and add it in, and you'll receive an announcement that lets you know there's new content there. So standards will be there for October, which go in, I believe they become effective January of 26, so they'll be there in advance of that.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Furby.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank
Furby.
you. I hope you guys have a good meeting. I'm gonna go ahead and I will stop sharing. Maybe I will stop sharing.
We're just gonna end the meeting then. Sounds good?
Thank you so much for your
Sounds
time.
good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks a lot.
So in order to register, we just go to this site.
I'm gonna increase the lights,
Thank you.
a fair warning.
Heather, in order to register, all we do is go to this site.
Yes, and you have to go through your L2 account. If you don't
I don't
have
have
one,
one, I need to.
then I
create
can
one.
set you one up tomorrow. So I'll make sure all the trustees have an L2 account tomorrow.
So you have to create that,
Mhm.
not me,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, fabulous, then you'll just,
And I'll send everybody an email. You'll also get an email from L2 if you don't already have an account saying one is set up for you.
okay,
So, and if anyone has any problems, please give me a call. I'll be happy to get you set up.
okay, great, thank you for that.
Mhm.
I tried it, but it ended up asking me what webinars I want to attend, and I can't because I'm not registered. Okay, thanks.
You're
Appreciate it.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 15th, 2025 regular board meeting.
Second? Any comments on the minutes? Okay, Margaret.
Trustee Kadir,
I wasn't present, so I will abstain.
Trustee Derblick,
I was absent, so I will also abstain.
Trustee Schoenfeld,
Yes.
yes. Treasurer Vitello,
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky,
Yes.
Vice President Shelko,
Yes.
President King.
Yes.
5 yeses, 2 abstain passes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the operating expenses of $235,819.02, payroll expenses of $293,594.05, special reserve expenses of $11,005.40, for a total monthly expense of $540,418.47.
I second.
Any questions?
I just have a comment to make. This is the eighth month now, or seventh month? Seventh month in. And I just wanted to point out that we are in a lot of areas way below budget, but one in particular that I wanted to point out is right now, legal fees, we're at 21%. I don't know if I've ever seen in the last 4 years legal fees be at 21% this late into the year. So I think that shows that we're getting the hang of this as a board, and it's going very well. So just wanted to point that out to the public.
In all fairness, Trustee Trunko, you may be getting a handle on it, but we're also not involved in union negotiations, which were very costly. So kudos that they're down. But the reality is thank goodness, the contract was signed and we can move forward and keep that cost down. But thanks for bringing it up.
All right, shall we vote then?
Trustee Kadir,
Yes.
Trustee Derblick,
I'm going to abstain. Thank you.
Trustee Schoenfeld,
I'm going to abstain with this one as well.
Treasurer Vitello,
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky,
Yes.
Vice President Trunco,
Yes.
President Key.
Yes.
5 yeses, 2 abstain, passes. I want to clarify something. On the last vote, I understood Trustee Schoenfeld to say, I thought yes, she said in fact abstain, correct?
Which vote?
And that was for approval of minutes for January 15th?
No, she
No,
said
she
no.
said yes. for
She
that.
said
Okay,
yes for this.
Okay, I'm sorry, because you had just said that you said abstain again, so that's what
No,
threw me off.
no.
Okay, okay. So I was correct in the first place. Thank you so much, sorry about that.
Treasurer Battello?
Madam President, I have the financial report ending on January 31st, 2025. I'll begin. The beginning balance as of December 31st, 2024 was $10,173,132. Revenue came in as replacement taxes at $29,907. Investment income, $51,962. Fines, $7. Lost books, 109. Pay for print, 2,118. Book sales, 1,249. Passports, 11,204. Donations, 225. Others, 452. That gives us a subtotal of 97,015. Moving on with expenditures. Employee salaries, 296,372. Employee fringe benefits, 7,772. Social Security, 21,999. Unemployment at 2,157. Subtotal there, 328,300. Moving along, operating expenses includes library materials, 78,278. Library operating, 26,434. General and administration, 27,199. Utilities, 10,085. Capital expenditures, 3,237. Building and equipment maintenance, 20,039. Subtotal there is 165,272. The general balance total per the balance sheet dated as of January 31st, 2025 is $9,816,007. Madam President, I do want to just make a note that passport revenue came in at $11,204. And to me, that's a good indication that there was a lot of travel, of course, and word must be getting out that our library is the place to renew your passports. So I'd like to thank all the members of the community that use our service, and especially the staff that are taking care of all the individuals that come in and renew their services, because that must have been a lot of hard work to generate that type of revenue. So thank you to all the staff that were handling that. Any questions,
That
concerns?
11,000 was just for 1 month.
Yes.
Yeah, I can remember when we were discussing having this, and we won't make any money. I think that's fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, it's a really nice service that we offer the community, and now that we can have the pictures done here as well, it's just,
Yeah, one-stop
yeah,
shop.
it's really nice. Thank you. Director Marshall? Or, I'm sorry, trustee reports. Does anyone have a report?
Okay, in addition to what I have written in the director's report, I do have some items to include that I wanted to specifically talk about. So the first thing is that our community survey, which is part of our strategic planning process, is now live on our website. There's a banner for it at the top of our website and a landing page. We also have a QR code for that in our newsletter that's going out to the community. And we have QR codes around the building, as well as printed surveys will be available at the service desks by next Monday. So we are working on that. We would really love community input at all levels for how we want to move forward with our strategic planning process. Something else that I want to highlight is President Keene approached me and our Human Resources Manager, Cassandra, about a DEI statement proposal for the library to make. There are other libraries in the area that have made statements on their websites for the community in support of DEI initiatives. And I know that because the board has supported a diversity in our programming and diversity in our displays, that this is something of interest among our community as well that we would like to bring forward to the board next month. But I just wanted to highlight that we do have an anti-racism committee currently working on that statement, and they've been interested in this type of work since past incidents, in broader news for the past several years. And so they're really looking forward to developing this for the library and bringing it forward to the board. So thank you, President Keene, for approaching us for that. And I really appreciate the staff that's starting to do this work. So I just wanted to say that. And thank you to Cassandra, who was recently appointed as the new chair of that committee, and for the work that you're doing with the committee. So thank you. The newsletter, just so everyone knows, should be in houses in the next couple of days. We try to get it into houses by the 20th, but it is running a little bit behind. We are talking to, you got yours today? Good. So hopefully it should be in houses by tomorrow.
There's understaffed in there?
So yes, we are still looking to fill positions in that department, but the newsletter is posted online. So it's gone live this evening and is available online and should be in houses, like I said, if it's not already there, within the next couple of days. And then I do a big event coming up this weekend that I'd like to invite the board to, as well as the community, is Fandom Fest. Victoria was part of the committee that planned that, so I'd like her to talk about it a little bit.
Sure. So here's the little handout, the program that we'll be giving away, and I just want to highlight the last page is all about the strategic plan and incentivizing people to fill it out, so you can go up and turn it in and get a little bit of swag, and then anybody who did the survey gets to put in, Hug Plumbing, yes, gets to put in a thing for our big giveaway raffle, which is 2 passes to C2E2, the big
Nice.
Comic-Con.
You know, anyone can fill that out. You don't have to be a resident.
No,
Just be
anybody.
a patron. Okay.
Correct.
Good.
Yeah, Fandom Fest is usually pretty well populated, so
Usually.
hopefully we get a good,
And
Good
we're
turnout for
utilizing a lot of our services here. We're doing a maker fandom craft, cosplay make and take down in the Teen Underground. And we're gonna have trivia and fandom parody, a lot of photo ops on the second floor. We're gonna have the Daleks, when you see the Daleks, and the Ghostbusters, and who else are we having? Oh, the Garrison, who are all the Star Wars people coming in.
And the
encour-
inflatables.
Inflatables, yes. And so encouraging staff and patrons to participate and dress up and join us. And
Old or
fill out the
new
strategic
Daleks?
plan.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
old or new Daleks, or you don't know?
Old, I believe. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't know there was a difference.
There is.
Okay,
You're talking to a who I care.
okay. So that's,
I just have one quick
Sure.
question. That information, is that on the website? Or
yes, it is.
It is.
It is.
Okay,
And I can
good.
pass this around just so you guys can get an
No, I
advanced
need to
look.
send
It's
it,
also
like,
by the
I'll
front
just
door,
forward
Carolyn.
the email, the website to everybody.
I can send the information to the trustees as well via email. So you can pass
Like
it
as an
along.
invite to relatives to come.
That'd be
Yeah.
great. And if you want to dress up,
Is
I'm
too
gonna dress
cool.
up, I think several staff are gonna dress up. We have some inflatable costumes from the popular online game Among Us. That's gonna be really funny with people running around, so.
With blow-up costumes, yeah.
We practiced it the other day. We had someone dress up and walk around the library to promote the event, and some of the tweens were very excited.
I bet.
So,
That's cool.
Those costumes will also tie in very nicely with summer reading,
yes.
so we'll be able to keep using.
More bang
Oh,
for your
very
buck.
nice.
That's incredible. Great job, by the way. Again, yeah, she's incredible.
What is summer reading?
Summer reading theme is gonna be space themed. We haven't gotten a moniker figured out quite yet, but we're working on a space
It's
theme.
cool.
Yeah.
That's a
I
different
think I
one.
just leaked it.
Surprise. All right, that's all I had.
Can I make 2 comments on your report, please? One on the strategic plan, you mentioned in your report about getting on social media.
Mhm.
I know we understaffed this year, but can we make sure that we post it everywhere on social media, like
Yes.
X? I look back on X and like our last post is May 17th to 23.
Mhm.
And besides closings, our last post for Instagram was back in November. So if we could just try to start utilizing that.
We were waiting until after Fandom Fest to post specifically about the strategic plan, so it gets the most attention that it can, so we'll be doing that next week.
Awesome. And then one of the things in the library highlights that I wanted to point out was the winter reading program. We do a lot of talking on this board about pre-COVID numbers, and since then, and there's been comments that we're not there and back. Pre-COVID, the 2019-2020 winter, so right before COVID, we had 314 participants. This year's winter reading program was 518. So that was 204 more participants than pre-COVID. So I think that we're heading in a great direction to get back past where we were pre-COVID and even do better things. So I just wanted to, and to everybody who participated in winter reading, hats off to you. Thank you so much for all your hard work. But that 518 patrons is awesome.
Thank you. We've been seeing those numbers here in person, and they're starting to show in the statistics as well that we are getting back to pre-COVID numbers and even exceeding them in several areas, which is wonderful to see, and the staff is doing an excellent job having brought back really great programs and doing collection development. And we appreciate the board's support in increasing our staffing levels to be able to better serve the community.
Thank you. Are the 9 communications, Valerie, any communications?
Under communications, I have shared the per capita grant application that was submitted to the state. And it highlights, as we've been going through with the board, the Illinois Standards for Public Libraries, that is the information that we use when we fill out this grant every year. It is annually worth about $84,000 of our income on average. And so it's a really important grant to have submitted. And we've highlighted some of the objectives that we plan to pursue within this next calendar year.
I have to admit, this is the first time it's been in our packet.
Okay.
Which is nice.
So it was
Transparency is
nice,
good.
but I was kind of like, she's giving us a copy.
It's important for the board and the community to see what we've been talking about and working on in one place. So if anyone has any questions, either now or if you take some more time to read through it, just let me know. I'm happy to talk about it.
Is this,
After you.
the, where we used to get the stars from, is this where the stars would come from when it was a star library?
No.
No, okay.
That was, I believe, through either ILA or ALA, but they no longer have the STAR program any
Right.
longer.
So,
I know, we can't be a star library anymore because it's not a thing. But, okay, thank you. Roberta.
Valerie,
There may be-
my question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There
go
may
ahead.
be other options though. I mean, if they got rid of that,
Mhm.
are there other library affiliations that are doing something?
There are other awards we can apply for in different areas, and grants as well, based on what we're doing. So we talked about this at the last meeting, but we got a grant for teaching classes and giving out laptops to members of the community, which is wonderful. So we are keeping an eye out for those things, but so far there's nothing that compares to the Star Library project. One of the reasons why they ended that program was because it was harder for them to get smaller libraries represented.
Hard to be participants. But I'm saying, to her point, we should do whatever we can to get this recognition out
Oh,
there
absolutely.
in whatever other, opportunities that may exist. And I'm thinking, maybe you see a lot more than we see. Okay, that would be great. I definitely think it's a great idea.
If we see any such opportunities, I'll bring them to the board, absolutely.
Thank you.
Valerie, I did want to ask, with regards to the funding for this grant, is it based on state budget,
Yes, it's a state grant.
not federal
Not
funding?
federal, yes.
Thank you.
We're more likely to get it through the state than the federal at this point, I would think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so I will, just for the sake of the community and the board going through this, at the very last page of the grant, which is page 48 in your packet, it summarizes the different things that were talked about in the application. And so some of the things that we plan to pursue are to subscribe to a website service catered to board reporting to ensure library reports are accessible by the board, staff, and community. That's Board Book that we already use, but in the grant application, you can't specifically name a vendor in case you were going to look for other vendors. So, but, and the grant does support continued, year by year subscriptions and things of that nature. Pay for strategic planning consultant services, which will be a big portion of this funding to help support that for this year. Pay for off-site record storage and disposal services. Pay for insurance covering property and liability. Support library staff in attending local, regional, state, and national conferences, training workshops, and seminars. Support the development of a library literature collection and purchase of professional development tools and databases. Pay for consultants to assess and recommend improvements to space needs, including a remodel of the library's lower level and improved lighting levels on the second floor of the library. And just to state this, all of these are goals. We don't promise that we're going to do these. That what we do is reported at the end of the reporting year. So these are just goals that we hope to pursue. It's not everything that will be covered. But if we do these things, we can use grant funds toward them.
So only what you list here can be used for the grant money that we got.
Exactly.
That's why they normally put a larger amount of
large
things.
list.
Sure, sure.
Hire consultants to improve internal library signage, purchase sturdy and comfortable furniture to meet user needs, hire consultants to conduct a capital needs assessment and create a capital improvement plan, install key fob technology so staff-only areas are more secure, purchase a web-based platform which compiles library data into reports recommending collection purchases, marketing ideas, meeting guidelines, and more, pay for library system and consortium organizational membership fees, purchase readers advisory databases and resources, support building-wide programming initiatives, hire consultants to assist with rebranding and other marketing initiatives, purchase technology, hardware, and software, and purchase collection materials to better serve all community demographics.
Can I just ask one question? Did you have to indicate an approximate amount for each of these?
No, and it
Okay.
actually says on the grant application, let me see if it is listed here. It says not to list specific
Okay.
amounts.
Because if I have my grants aligned correctly,
Mhm.
we did receive a large amount last year, but
Mhm.
they must identify the cost by what you list here. That's why
I-
sometimes the amounts seem pretty decent.
So on average, for the past several years, we've been getting about $84,000.
Right.
And I believe it's based on the population that we serve.
Okay. It's still 84 grand.
It's a really
If we can-
excellent
yeah.
support for the library.
So it is population. All right, thanks.
Thank
Any other
you.
questions?
I'd like to make a motion on the proposal to rescind the library rules policy and the unattended children policy and replace them with a patron code of conduct policy.
I second.
Page 49, so this is the next thing in there, okay.
All right, so this is the policy that we talked about last month.
Yep.
And we had it sent over to the lawyer
Yes.
to find out if it was legal to put a policy or to have language in there about sleeping.
Mhm.
And that came back as, yes, that is legal.
Yes.
And then he went ahead and reworded that a little bit.
He added a
Right.
lot to this
Yep.
policy from what it was at the last meeting. And I agree with all of the information he added. I feel that the language he added better protects us and patrons who use the library.
And that's on page 3 of the
Mm-hmm.
3.02.
Yeah, bullet point 2 and 3.
So specifically related to the bullet point that refers to sleeping, which is on page 51 of the packet, the language has been updated to say that under the section that says the board considers the following behaviors unacceptable continued. Sleeping that is prolonged, disruptive, e.g. loud snoring, suggests a medical emergency, e.g. slumped over and unresponsive, or involves using the library primarily for sleeping over extended periods, e.g. an entire day or multiple days in a week, is not permitted to maintain a safe and functional environment for all patrons.
I would add, in order, say, is not permitted in order to. Just clarifies it.
In order to.
In order, is not permitted in order to maintain.
Okay.
Same meaning, but a little more clear.
Valerie, I'd like to add a suggest or comment on this topic.
Yes.
So, when we call customer service on an 800 number or whatever, sometimes a recording comes up and saying the conversation is going to be recorded for training or for other purposes.
Quality assurance.
Quality assurance. Thank you. I'm wondering, should we include some verbiage to say that staff may be approaching someone that appears to be asleep? So that if I choose to close my eyes and rest, to prevent being offended by someone approaching me while my eyes are closed. That's just something that came across in my mind as I was reviewing this material here.
On page 49, which is the first page of this document, in the first paragraph, part of it says patrons who violate the board's policies may be asked to leave the library premises and or have their library privileges suspended from 1 day to indefinitely. We could add language there that says may be approached by staff and reminded of policies as well.
Well, more of a wellness check, if you will, and not necessarily something punitive, but rather want to make sure you're okay.
Sure.
Your eyes are closed.
And we do that for all of our policies. Our first step as persons in charge of the library, whoever's assigned with that, or even staff in general, is, and these are part of our PIC trainings and our safety manual that was recently updated. Our first step is compassion. And our first step is making the assumption that people just don't know what our policies are. And so that's how staff is trained and directed, is to first bring this code of conduct with them, or currently it's the library rules with them, and just assume, even if you've talked to the person before, that they don't know or remember the policy, and give a gentle reminder before we ever pursue anything punitive.
Thank
Just to your point on page 51, it does mention about sleeping that is prolonged, suggests a medical emergency. So it's in there that we are looking out for their well-being. Did you think it needed to be added on the first page as well, or?
That's open for discussion. I would welcome that.
Okay.
And also, I have another suggestion in terms of safety. Recently, we've had the fire drills. And I would like to incorporate something on here that says that your cooperation is expected. Because I could see a situation where somebody may be studying and doesn't want the disruption, but I mean, it's a safety drill. And the expectation is that you may be asked to evacuate or not. But the idea here is that we describe it in the code of conduct.
I agree with that, adding that language. We did have, just to share, in our last fire drill, we did have patrons who did not leave the building when asked. And our responsibility, we still passed the fire drill according to the fire marshal, because the PIC reported it to me, and we reported it to the fire personnel that someone didn't evacuate, because we can't force them. We can have it in our rules, that is absolutely appropriate, but we still can't force them. So we pass as long as we inform the fire marshal that people chose not to leave.
That's the
That's-
same as a
that's the-
tornado thing
The
too,
equivalent
isn't
of a person who refuses to evacuate when wildfire is approaching their house. It's
Mhm.
not, it's not the city's responsibility. You choose to stay in your house and, you get,
Even though it's our public property, it's not
Yeah.
their home, it still applies. Okay.
yeah,
So we're
I'm
not
pretty
their
sure.
fault.
I'm pretty sure that. I'm not 100% sure about but pretty sure as long as you do you do due diligence and inform them and they are aware, then after that it's up to them.
Okay. I had two concerns, it's on page 49, and it has to do with, some of the wording, like 1, 2, 3, the fourth bullet point. It says maintain an acceptable standard, of personal hygiene. My concern is, we're putting our staff in a position where you need to determine whether this person's hygiene is acceptable or not. I mean, is that making it difficult for staff to approach someone? I'm offended by this as a, you know what I mean? I just feel like, I don't know how to get around that, but I feel like we're sending our staff, everyone has, some people have allergies, and honestly, it doesn't take much for them to not be able to tolerate something. I'm not sure,
I don't think we're not forcing anyone, we're not like mandating, we had talked about this, I think, in the meeting, right? We're not like mandating people to go around and be like, you smell, if there's a very, very obvious situation where someone's lack of personal hygiene is disrupting other patrons, like,
So I can explain how we usually address this as well. This is something that comes up in many libraries. So again, we start with an approach of compassion. And we also approach people if more than one person has noticed an odor, for example. It's so that not just one person's opinion is what, this approach is being dependent upon. So usually the PIC will get a second person to verify and approach with them. And our approach is always, you are welcome to return if you resolve the situation. We never place blame, but we do also share resources such as the Family Services Center across the street if someone needs laundry services or assistance in that way. Typically, we only address this again, as Trustee Kadir was saying, if it's so noticeable that it permeates a larger area of the library, or we've received several reports of an odor or something of that nature. It is challenging to approach and very delicate, and that's why we do the trainings and have guidelines.
Oh, no, I understand that. Actually, I was in the library, it may have been on a meeting day, I was leaving. And there was an elderly man by the vending machines, and people were commenting about the odor. Now, I'm horrible at guessing ages. Maybe he was 90 years old, and maybe he's been coming here forever. And, as you get older, some people have difficulty, and when I read this, I thought, wow, so what do you do? Tell me, can't come back? And
We always say you're welcome to come back when you correct the situation,
All right.
always.
So, you mentioned, I was just looking back at some of these things. You mentioned approaching with compassion. I mean, that obviously, you have to take a different approach if bullet points on page 50 or page 3 of the, bullet points 5 and 6, like somebody comes into the library with nunchaku, which I couldn't imagine anyone does. They're like whipping around their nunchucks.
If it's
we're gonna
safe
call
to
the cops
do
right
so.
away, right?
We also emphasize in our
know.
trainings and in our safety manual, do what you feel is the safest. So
Right.
every staff member is empowered to call 911 if they feel like that is the safest approach to something. And so that's part of our training in our manuals as well.
Like you've got, bringing in any chemical or toxic substance such as radioactive materials. If somebody's carrying around a briefcase of uranium, I think, you
Yeah,
know.
I'm sure
we're
that's
gonna-
going to happen.
We're not gonna ask them kindly to leave.
No.
Right?
It's a judgment call, and that's why we provide the training and the
Right.
support.
I
Okay.
just had one last question regarding cell phones. It says that, and it's on page 49, it's like 2-4, maybe the 7th bullet point. It says cell phones and pagers should be set to silent or turned off. But then it says, when talking on a cell phone, persons should use a conversational voice. Now, depending on where you are, again, I was in the library, this was on my own time one day, and there was a man sitting by the vending machines again, and he's a businessman conducting business. You could hear him on the entire first floor.
Mhm.
And I know in here somewhere you're not supposed to allow to conduct your business, but how, you know, if I was downstairs, even in the like tech lab,
Mhm.
and the person next to is on her phone, and I'm trying to compose or type, isn't that distracting? I saw some libraries where you can only use your phone in like select areas, and usually not where a lot of people gather.
We could choose to implement a policy like that of quiet areas, but the way we consider this now is if we get reports of it disturbing someone else in using the library, which is part of the code of conduct, that's when we'll approach someone
Oh,
and offer them other areas such as a private study room that they could use to still be welcome
I
at the
see.
library.
Okay,
So it depends on where they are and what the situation is.
okay.
Mhm.
And you are not allowed to conduct your business.
There's
In the
nowhere that
library.
says that. You're allowed to do as you like to
We've
conduct
talked
your
I
about
business.
this
thought there
for a
was-
long time, that people come in here and do conduct business and we don't send them out.
Now, I thought I read something about you're not allowed to
No,
conduct
we have never,
your business.
as far as I've known, we've never said that people cannot.
Selling,
business.
soliciting, and/or promoting commercial enterprises or non-library activities.
That's something totally different.
That's if you
Yeah,
walk
so
around
that's-
handing out flyers or selling
Or
candy. in the
political
library, soliciting.
information.
Oh, so while he's selling for his business, that's acceptable.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
on,
he's not bothering other patrons. That's the whole
He's
point.
not soliciting business from
I
other
get it.
patrons.
Okay, so
He's-
that's the key,
He's just conducting
soliciting.
his own business.
But he can do that on our property.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thanks for explaining.
can I now ask my question or
Absolutely,
make my statement?
absolutely.
Stop it. As far as I'm concerned, putting sleeping in two separate bullet points is overkill. So I feel we should pick the bullet point we want, and the other one, you know, how much do you want to say, no sleeping, no sleeping, no sleeping? I think one time stating it is more than sufficient.
So say for the second bullet point, loitering or camping for
Yeah.
protected periods of time
Yeah,
and scratch
Yes.
for sleeping?
yeah,
Yes.
because sleeping is already addressed in the
I'm
last
gonna
one.
go and, you know, I'm gonna still advocate that we don't have any sleeping language in this policy at all. I don't think that it's necessary. I don't know if you guys all had a chance to read through the research that the staff did for us. Anybody?
I
I did,
personally.
I did, yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, I personally, I understand where that's coming from. I personally, we haven't really had an issue with it at this point. I personally don't see the necessity. But that's me. I'm
So
one
do-
board member.
Do you want to make the?
I
motion
have
first?
some suggestions, yeah, and
Could you clarify, so you want to remove the sleeping?
I'm getting there.
Okay,
Yes,
thanks.
and the reasoning for that is, you know, we haven't had it up until now. We've been fine without it. Many libraries don't have it, like we discussed last month. The staff did give us a link to Morton Grove that actually includes language where sleeping is allowed, which is, you know, a neighboring library of us. I'm worried that it's gonna make us send the wrong signal to the community,
agree.
that we are not welcoming all people.
I
It
agree.
could be seen as discrimination against the homeless.
That the lawyer
Mhm.
actually said
He
that
said
is
no?
not true.
Okay, that's good.
And I want to make an argument to the contrary. We have had sleeping issues here for years, and they have been addressed without there being a policy in place, which is actually illegal. So there have been people who have slept outside in the parking lot before. There was recently a woman who was sleeping in the vestibule that I've had to speak with. they have been addressed without it being in policy, which is actually more discriminatory than having language in the policy about how and when to address it. I did discuss that with the attorney as well.
The woman that was sleeping inside, what was is it prolonged, is it daily, what is the
She said she
situation?
wanted to sleep here in the vestibule because she missed the bus, and then she was going to wait until we closed and sleep in our parking lot.
Was she homeless?
I don't know, I don't ask that question, but I asked the lawyer specifically about that situation, and if we had allowed that, because she informed that, we're taking on the liability of potentially her exposure to the weather and things of that nature, because she informed me that she intended to sleep on our property.
So therefore,
Wait a minute.
back to what I was saying in the first place, is the third bullet point covering it more so, and then just eliminate it from the second?
This was written by the attorney. So yes, it does cover us legally, this part was written by the attorney.
But the third bullet point,
Yes, the third bullet point.
Okay.
He also wrote the second one.
as
But,
far as I'm
yeah.
concerned, it's redundant.
So something that was a little confusing to me also about the bullet point with the loitering and the camping is that loitering, camping, or sleeping for protracted periods of time, like, they don't all
Protracted is
seem
short.
like they belong in the same category to me, so I don't know if it would make more sense to separate them out and say loitering for protracted periods of time, camping on library premises, and I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense the way it is here to me. So but if I
Yeah,
had
I'm
taken the
with,
whole sleeping thing out, I had loitering for protected periods of time, camping on library premises, urinating or defecating outside of restrooms on library premises. I don't care, I don't have a problem with the sleeping outside. I think if we have an issue with that, that's a problem. I don't want people sleeping outside, but I don't have a problem with people sleeping inside while we're open.
I have a question if I can.
Yeah.
And it's actually for Rich, if I could ask Rich a question. Rich, this policy, while it affects the whole library as a whole, it's also gonna affect the security team now, which you're over,
And the PICs.
and the PICs, but the security team, or your team, will be going around and helping enforce this as well. Is it better for you to have a black and white policy like this on all these topics, including sleeping? Or, what's your opinion? I'd love to hear your opinion. Because my thought is a black and white policy is the best way to go on everything. Then there's no gray area for you guys to be called discriminatory against somebody or things of that nature.
Right, the less we have to make a determination, a policy determination, it's one thing about compassion, but it's another thing about our liability as a department or a building itself as an organization. So if it is spelled out, I think that's much easier for us to, whether it be my team or the PICs that are supervisors, assistant directors, whoever they are, or Valerie herself, would have to deal with. So I would advocate for, a more detailed, but not to the degree where it spells out every kind of action. So, for example, the sleeping, habitual, yes, that makes sense. On property, I don't think we need to define specifically on the corner east side and in the parking lot and, under the stairs, but a general policy that, for sleeping specifically, that states what the board, the elected officials of this organization, deem to be acceptable use of the property. So we have other things on there, right? Acceptable use of furniture, acceptable use of equipment. So some of that stuff, if someone is sleeping on a bench, it's not designed for sleeping, it's designed to use as a seating apparatus, right? So there's some degree that we can use to that, especially when we have individuals throughout the day saying, well, there's something going on out there. Person
Can
looks
I-
like they're,
Let him finish.
I just want to jump in. Your bench example, I'm leaning back and sitting like this on a bench.
I meant like
Right,
completely
yeah, yeah.
flat,
So-
sideways.
So again, even then, it would depend on circumstance, right?
Right, and our approach has always been, is something wrong with the person? And you can usually tell, you know, if there's some sort of inebriation, they've drunk too much, you know, you can smell it.
Yeah.
And then they kind of look like they're comatose, you're gonna get 911 and have someone that, you know, the EMTs come out and figure out what's going on.
Right.
And a lot of times they have to take them somewhere. And, you know, it happens very infrequently, but it happens where then, you know, if we have a policy that states these main things you can't do, it's much easier for us to revert to that in a situation when it has to be, you know, looked at.
Valerie, I have one question for you. You mentioned that the attorney said that we're actually being more discriminatory, potentially more discriminatory by not having a policy and in doing something. So are we opening ourselves up to more liability from a legal aspect by not having a policy in place and then taking action if we do something?
I didn't ask that specific question, but it can all come down to if we don't have something written out, like Rich was saying, for his staff to follow and for PICs to follow. We could have one staff member that wakes everyone up just if they see them sleeping. We could have another person who lets someone sleep for days, and that's where it becomes uneven enforcement.
That wouldn't be in this
potentially-
policy, that would be more of like a staff document, right? Like, these are the procedures that we follow when someone's sleeping, that wouldn't be.
We would have to have it in a policy to approach anyone who's sleeping. Otherwise, we could be enforcing it unevenly and potentially open ourselves up to liability.
So like if you
To your
wanted to
point.
leave somebody sleeping, but whomever wanted to wake somebody up and you're both working, you could walk by that person, leave them alone, and whomever can go wake them up every 5 minutes. There's no policy to protect. Either way is not right, either way is not wrong. So, because there's no policy.
I'm still feeling that bullet point 3 covers more.
It does, yeah, so we can
And
remove the word
Bullet
sleeping. I
point
think,
2 is just the wording of it.
And there are other libraries that have designated areas where people are welcome to sleep if the board wanted to go in that direction. There are libraries there was one library I saw that gives out some type of flower pot. If you said to us, you're gonna be napping, but we don't have to worry about your safety, and you put it next to you if you're gonna be napping. There are other ways to approach this if the board wanted to consider other methodologies, but this was the wording recommended by the attorney.
I would like to consider further discussion on that because I believe that, you know, just sleep is part of a human being. It's part of what we do. And so some of us may sleep while we are at the library. And I think that if we just strictly say out no sleeping allowed, it creates a block for a patron to feel welcome in here. So I would like for us to engage in further discussions about ways to include language that does not restrict it 100%, because
This does not restrict it 100%,
I don't
in my
think,
opinion.
I don't think the third bullet point, because it says snoring and suggest
they're giving
medical
you examples,
emergency. You know, to me, that one, more so than this loitering, camping, sleeping, to me, bullet point 3 covers more, and yet it's,
Could it just be sleeping that is disruptive or suggest a medical emergency?
But you could be meditating, or else you could be doing church services too. There's a difference too as well that you could be adding to that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so maybe
I'm
get
not
rid of the word
laughing at you,
prolong.
I'm laughing at a memory.
So-
My
so
father
if
would
we-
sit like this with the envelope in his hand, and people would think he was meditating. No, he was sleeping.
The real question that I have as far as staff guidance is if someone wants to sleep here every day, is the board supportive of that?
If they're not disruptive, I don't see why it should be a problem.
Well,
That's fine with
I
me, we
think
just,
so.
we
To
need
me-
But
guidance
if they're
on
not
that.
disruptive, and that's why I think prolonged in and of itself may be the problematic
to
phrase
me,
for folks,
disruptive
right?
and, you know, medical emergency, you know, if somebody's concerned about what they see, that's a difference, then are you okay?
Mhm.
And
So,
if this allows us to have somebody go up and just ask, are you okay? Is there, you know, do you have a problem? Do I need to call somebody?
So again, it would be a difference, if I sat right there in that chair, right outside, and I leaned my chair back, I kicked my feet up on the table, and I started snoring really loudly, that's gonna be pretty disruptive. If I go way off into one of the little corners behind a bookshelf, and I lean my seat back and I take a nap, even if I'm sleeping for 5 hours, it's probably not gonna disturb anybody. And so, I think the key here is not the idea that somebody comes and uses the library to sleep, because it's a public good, and if they wanna take up a chair to sleep, and they're not disturbing anybody, then I don't see a problem with that. But if they are disturbing somebody, it doesn't matter whether they're sleeping for 5 hours or 15 minutes, if they're disturbing people, then they're disturbing people.
Yeah,
And that's the
all we
real,
need to know.
to me, that's the operative, that's the touchstone for when sleeping becomes a problem, is
That-
when it's disrupting other patrons.
That
So-
also helps us when we get complaints from other patrons,
Yes.
because they will come to us and say, hey, this person's sleeping in the vestibule. And so if we know that that's okay with the board, it helps us better address those concerns if they're reported to us, which is why we're discussing this in general. I do suggest if we take out prolonged sleeping, that we put back into bullet point 2, sleeping outside.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Because I think we should have language about sleeping in the parking lot and after hours and things of that nature because of the exposure liability for the weather.
Well, I
Yeah.
agree with
So-
President Keene's breakdown.
Yeah.
We should still include that for the loitering, camping, sleeping house. She broke it down. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And can I just throw one thing out? As far as sleeping in the library and being a warming center, don't we want to make sure we're not conflicting the two? I mean, if we're a warming center.
We're not a
We're
warming
not.
center.
All libraries are warming.
No, we're not.
No, we're not a designated warming center.
We are not a
Family
warming.
services is until 5 o'clock, and then the fitness center till, I believe it's 8:30 PM.
But
or 9
we
o'clock.
are not.
We are not.
I thought all libraries were.
No.
No.
No, so
Okay,
I mean,
well, I'll
we
take
welcome
that back.
people, but we're not a designated
we could
warming
actually
center.
bring them across the street where they could
Sure.
actually do a lot of this stuff
Exactly.
and help them get
Yes.
showers.
Right, thank
and
you for
everything
clarifying,
else.
because I'm thinking, wait a minute, okay, gotcha.
Okay, so for the second bullet point, we're gonna keep sleeping
No, we're gonna get rid of sleeping.
in the second bullet
In the
point?
second bullet point,
Okay,
meaning number 2, and then number 3. the
we're
third
getting
bullet
rid of
point.
the word
We're
prolonged.
getting rid of the word prolonged, and we're adding in the word, comma, or sleeping outside.
Well, I would prefer to ask the attorney on how to word that
Okay.
Okay.
specifically.
Okay,
Okay,
let's go back to it and revisit.
but you might want to just notate, add sleeping outside and see how he, like
Yeah.
you said, how
Yeah,
he's-
that could be
he is.
worded differently, because that's not what I understood. For that second one, I didn't understand that it was sleeping outside. I thought it was something else. Yes.
No, I
you
didn't
could.
read
So
it
sleeping
that way.
outside in
To
addition-
me,
an
to
additional-
me, reading that loitering camping, I think of those tents set up under viaducts and stuff. And yeah, I would be against that. But that's what covering this?
It depends on how we word it, so I would prefer to bring that language, like I said, back to the attorney, so that
Okay.
we're covered.
It
So-
appears that if you camp for one day, you end up there for 6 months, so you need to
So
be careful and
is-
get it worded through the attorney.
While I get the sleeping is a very big part of this, there's also a rest of a policy here that is also very important to the library. So if we could agree to either adapt this with the changes that we're recommending so that the rest of the policy can go in place, because I don't think anybody has a problem with the rest of the policy that's in place here.
I don't.
For the patron code of conduct. But we're now, if we put this off another month, now we're literally 60 days of doing this, 90 days or more since you guys had the meeting to put this in place. We should put something in place for the staff and for the library.
We still have the old policy in place.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
this,
the old
but this
is
is, but this
better.
clarifies a lot of things a lot
1,000
better
times
than
better.
that policy does.
So you are saying we could pass this?
We could pass this with the work, I mean,
My
barring that the.
suggested terminology would be amending the motion to approve the policy with edits as to be determined by the attorney based on our discussion.
Okay, I would like to.
Yeah, but I don't want, I want to still vote on those edits
On the
after you
changes.
suggest them.
Oh,
So then I can
So
bring
the
it back for
policy,
next month.
except for what we're asking the attorney to
Yeah,
to
So
change
except
is
for
what
point
you're
2 and
saying?
3,
I don't know that we can approve a partial policy.
We
I
could,
don't- I don't think-
we could remove that from the, like, remove it from the policy and then revisit it next month and to add it back in the policy.
Well,
we approve the policy without, so we can approve the policy without those two clauses.
And then next month we
And,
could revisit it.
and
put it back
noting
in.
that, and also then agreeing that a sleeping provision will be added pending approval of final wording.
Okay, so you want to approve the policy and then approve it again next month?
Yeah.
You-
because the
basically
main
did an
policy
amendment.
will be approved.
Yeah.
It's a main,
Re-editing?
Approve it without a sleeping provision, and then, and state that a sleeping provision will be added, and then approve it with a sleeping provision next month.
Okay. All right, so I would like to revise the motion to pass the patron code of conduct without the sleeping provision in it,
Without, the two sleeping.
Two and
without the
three.
2 sleeping provisions in the patron code of conduct to be revisited
by the attorney.
by the attorney and then by the board next month. I think we could just, well, we probably could just take the sleeping policy out and then just do an amendment next month. I don't think we have to even state that.
Yeah, but why not state it on the record?
Okay.
It's better to see
Okay.
it than not.
All right, well, that's the motion.
Can I just ask the director one question?
Wait, there's
So
a motion
we
on the
have
table.
some sleeping.
Wait, there's a motion on the table, you
Verbiage.
have to,
Well,
Yeah,
need
you have to
a
act on the
second
motion.
first.
Okay,
Okay.
second.
okay, now you can,
Now
Thank
she
you.
can talk.
So you have some verbiage regarding sleeping that you'll be able to use until this gets?
We have no verbiage on sleeping in our current policy at all.
Okay,
And
so
that's
then it's
okay.
essentially no change.
There's
For
no
now.
change.
right?
Okay.
So
And you're
not
okay
having
with-
this provision doesn't like move us backwards. It
Yeah,
just-
it won't harm us in
Good.
any way.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just wanted to know if she
Yeah.
did this because there's something that she needs protection for. Okay.
Okay.
And I do
Wonderful.
want to thank the board for your thoughtful considerations on behalf of the staff as well. They put a lot of work into specifically considering this, so thank you for taking the time to think about it and for clarifying how we should best approach this.
Yeah, I think, I hope the staff understands, none of us are taking this lightly in any way. We want to make sure that we're doing what's best for the community and best for everybody involved. It's not just a slam yes or slam no, we really need to think about, this is a very touchy
Yes.
subject, so we just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence as well.
Absolutely.
And I think it was well-written, and to combine all of this in one was a very good suggestion or choice. Very good.
All right.
Great.
Okay.
Next fun test.
Do we
No,
vote?
we got- we got-
Vote it, we're not
Yeah.
gonna
Oh,
vote.
Vote, there's another thing to vote on.
Let her
And-
say
and
what
I-
she understood, so that we know what we're voting on.
Exactly. So I will listen to the tape to make sure, but if I can ask to make, maybe we can clarify. Amended the motion, let's see, without the 2 sleeping provisions to be revisited by
Next month.
trustees next month?
By next
Is
month,
that
after
okay?
the attorney review, after the
two-
attorney
yeah,
is worded.
Thank you. After
Attorney
Attorney.
revisions.
Mhm.
these revisions.
There you go.
Because I did not get that in,
No
and
worries.
I appreciate that. And I have, Vice President Trumbull motioned and trustee Durblick second, and I am going to ask for a vote. Trustee Kadir?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Durblick?
Yes.
Trustee Schultz?
Yes.
Treasurer Botello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trumbull?
Yes.
President King?
Yes.
And that is 7-0 passes.
Okay.
Okay.
For the next one, Valerie, I got a question for you. Do we actually have to put an action on there, or can we start it as a discussion and then go to a
You can
motion?
start as a discussion.
Okay, President Keen, I'd
Yes.
like to just start it as a discussion first and then see where we go with this and then make a motion, if that's okay? Perfect.
You're going on 10
Here we are,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, so we have some new documents that Valerie gave us. Do you
These.
already have these?
Oh, okay, got it.
So,
Just making sure we're all on the same page first. So
Right, so this is, for the public, this is the continued conversation of the downstairs remodel that was brought to us last month and presented very well. I think as the public saw, we were all taken back a little bit by the overall scope of the project. We asked for, well, I asked specifically for sort of, I hate to say a dumbed down version, but a modified version of what we came up with. And one of the things that we're talking about is the makerspace, which I asked Valerie, and Ms. Valerie asked Sarah. Sarah, if you could walk us through some of these numbers, I'd really appreciate that. That'd be great.
Sure. So I went and looked at statistics from the last 3 years, specifically for the crafts and making program, which generally pertain to either directly the makerspace or we would hold in the makerspace if we had more room to hold them in the makerspace. And looking at 2022, our attendance was 1,138. That increased in 2023 to 1,901. And this past year in 2024, 2,854. So just massive increase in attendance. We did have 29% more programs in 2024 than in 2023. But even you can see between 2022 and 2023, we only had one more program, but we had so much more attendance. But you can also see on the waiting lists, and that is something we've had a lot of patrons that would like to see less waiting list, because we have to have smaller programs because the space is small and then the classroom is small. If we had a larger space, we could offer more spaces in these classes as well. So in 2022, we had 259 people on the waiting lists for programs. In 2023, it was 269 people, but in 2024, it was 672 people on waiting lists for crafts and maker programs. So they have just become very, very popular. They've exploded in popularity. We have people begging us to do more all the time, and we just don't have a proper space to be able to do those on a more regular basis.
All right. So just to hold on one second, just to jump on that, first of all, thank you so much for all this information. This is wonderful. We're looking at 23.5% increase if we had more space for the 672 people on waiting list. We're also looking at the study rooms on the back of that page we had an increase of 1,125, my mental math is working, 1,125 more bookings of study rooms, and I know, because my daughter uses it particularly, there's wait lists on those as well, there's wait times there. One of the things that I had asked for, particularly, I'm using myself because this is where my ask was and my thoughts were, we had originally asked about doing the makerspace downstairs, and the team went and did an amazing job putting it all together for a whole remodel downstairs. I think if it was any other time besides with the strategic plan at the same time, I think a lot of this is not even a discussion at this point. From my aspect though, and these numbers, for us not to do something down there is a mistake. I love the new proposal that we have received, which is to put it out there publicly, it's to do the makerspace in the classroom, which would accommodate a lot more, 672 more people through the doors, and potentially even more than that, because a lot of people, I'm sure, when you tell them that we're filled on a program, they don't even put their name on a wait list because they know they're not going to get it. I'd love to see the classroom done, and if we do the 4 study rooms, that increases our study rooms down in the basement as well. So this addresses a lot of areas, plus the ADA desk when you first walk down. Yeah, it's a significant chunk of change, but if we're not in, we have this money, and we need to invest in the community, we need to invest in our building, and we need to move forward with making this library even better than it is today.
Let me take a step back from what Jason's saying. I agree with 100% of what he's saying. We've got to do this. But we need more space in the makerspace. We need more study rooms. When we do the strategic plan, is the strategic plan, so just going back to the ILEAD presentation that we started off with, one of the responsibilities of the trustee is, we're entrusted with public funds, so we have to spend funds responsibly. We have to spend them in the best way that we can possibly spend them. That doesn't mean don't spend them, just hoard them. It means spend them wisely. And so if the strategic plan comes back and says, you know what, we need a makerspace I don't know, upstairs, or we need a makerspace that's even bigger than what we what we did. What we don't wanna do is spend, what is it, $957,000, and then 6 months later, we hear from strategic plan and say, you know what, that wasn't good enough. And so, what I wanna try to understand is, what should we anticipate? You know, is the strategic plan going to simply tell us we need a bigger makerspace? Because if that's it, then we already know that, right? But if the strategic plan,
Strategic
the
plan.
strategic plan is going to tell us, no, you need to have a makerspace that's on the main floor or on, if it's going to, you know, specify something a little further, then we ought to be really careful about how quickly we move through things. Granted, I'm in 100% agreement that if the plan is gonna do something like that, that this should be the very first project that we implement in the plan. But it really, like, you know, what should we anticipate out of the strategic planning process in terms of telling us things that we don't necessarily already know?
Sure,
i.e.
so
that-
I have 3 considerations to bring up related to that.
Okay,
So first thing is the community survey that's now live, I did share with trustees.
Uh-huh.
And there is a section called future planning where we list possible options from things that have come up through staff discussions
Right.
and my discussions with trustees about options for what we might want to do in the future. Because this proposal has already been presented to the board, we did not specifically list more study rooms or a larger makerspace because
Okay.
we were already presenting
Fair
this
enough.
project. Second, when you look at the community survey, it doesn't specify like where we want things or what size. There's
That
no way
doesn't
for
make
the
sense to
community to
say,
get to that
do
level
we
of detail.
want it
no,
on
but not the
what
community,
floor?
but
It
the
should
ultimate,
be-
the consultant, is the
Right.
consultant's
Oh, the
recommendation.
consultant doesn't do anything to that level of specificity. A strategic plan is left broad on purpose for planning among the board and financial planning and things of that nature. And so the data, as it's analyzed when we come to it, will say, most people said they wanted a bookmobile, for example, and then it's up to the board to decide how we pursue that, when we pursue that, what's sustainable for the library, and which projects that, from what is mentioned from the surveys and the focus groups and things of that nature, we decide to pursue. So it's left broad on purpose.
So it's not gonna tell us, hey, put the makerspace on the first floor, it's not gonna tell us,
It's very
give us
unlikely.
this much square footage, et cetera,
There
it's
are
just gonna
some
say.
people who may choose to write that in, but it's not a question that we ask in that way, and it's not usually the type of feedback we would get in this process.
Okay, so it's just gonna say make it bigger, it's not gonna
Yep.
say make it how much you should make it bigger.
Exactly.
Okay, if that's true, then I think, yeah.
Go ahead, finish, so I can ask my question.
Oh, I can keep going.
No, yeah, I know you could keep going, that's why I'm saying finish, for crying out loud.
All right, so yeah,
I've had my hand up for like 10 minutes.
I know.
Finish, for
Even
Christ's
I
sake.
saw it.
Go ahead, Patty.
all right, go for it,
Can I speak now?
go for it.
Thank you. We're anticipating having the strategic plan in what, 4 or 5 months? Okay. It will ideally take a while to get whatever blueprints or drawings. My idea pertaining to this, which I know people will question, and I'm okay with that, question all you want. But my opinion on this is we shouldn't limit ourselves. We should get both ideas worked up. And then, once we know what the strategic plan is, what everything is, then we have all of the information, and as a board, at that point, we're more informed to give our idea of what we really want to go forward with.
What do you
The
mean
only-
to the 2 ideas?
The original one and the new one that he's suggesting without the teen space.
The
So
only,
the things that we have not.
But my thing is, I'm concerned about the fact that with Golf Mill being erected new, we're going to be having a large volume of new community members coming here. Is that makerspace can be large enough to accommodate all these people?
Well, the part with that though is you do have the classroom wall that collapses in the middle of it, so you actually have
Yeah.
the classroom plus the maker space.
So
it's
it could be
actually,
like
it's
two
a
maker,
huge,
two
it's like, it's two
rooms.
huge rooms that you're gonna be able to have.
Well, then not only that, then you should actually have screens also in case they have conferences. They're able to utilize screens to place those on the actual walls so they can have interaction with other people. So you can have a Zoom call or have something and then there's.
Yeah,
Some of
no,
that
they
is
have that
included in
now.
the plans,
We
right?
can plan those details. We do
Yeah,
have one
that's-
screen that's planned on the wall of the new makerspace to project things of that nature. And we can, I mean, if we move forward with asking the architects to draw up plans, we can absolutely have them include something like that
Yeah.
as well.
Here's my question, and I believe from last meeting, they said this would take about 4 to 5 months to start doing the work. So if we turn
Wow.
around and we,
Well, to finalize the plans.
to finalize
Yeah.
the plans, but if we're gonna wait 4 or 5 months for strategic plan, plus 4 to 5 months from then to start the project, now you're 10 to 12 months away.
That's why I'm saying,
And I don't-
get the plans made up now, because they say it's gonna take 4 or 5 months. This way, when the strategic plan is done, we have the plans, we can do
We
the
have-
vote.
We have the plans
We,
now.
we know that we have the demand and we
Yeah.
don't have the space, right?
Yeah,
But that's not
Yeah.
something that's gonna change with a strategic plan, we already know that, and it's not just because we have the data in front of us, it's because we've been hearing it for years, just like we've been hearing that we need soundproofing downstairs by the teens.
Yes.
I think Golf Mill is already part of our district, I don't know that that's gonna bring more people into here, that might be something that we wanna look at expanding in, and down the road, that's a different story.
Yeah,
Um,
how we can court
Yeah,
those
like
people.
a satellite location or something
can I
of that
just-
nature.
Bring up one point. To Kadir's point about where we're actually planning to locate this expansion, and is the lower level the best choice? As a board, is it our responsibility to evaluate the different floors and what's actually currently happening in terms of patron flow? And is the lower level the best place to have these study rooms and makerspace?
I think that as the board, our duty is to listen to the staff who spent many, many hours collaborating across the building and decided that that was the best spot.
So they've already considered a different floor.
So this is
And-
the most cost-effective way to make an expansion happen without altering large parts of the building and moving a lot of things around.
Okay.
And it is something that, again, we could consider in the future if needed, but 5 to 10 years down the road if we need further expansion. But we would like to have this addressed sooner rather than later because there is such high demand for it. We don't want to lose that demand by delaying doing something.
What happens to makerspace while the construction is going on? There is no makerspace, or?
So we have plans, and Sarah can address this more, but we have plans, and we've already started doing some of this, of bringing makerspace equipment into the vestibule or into not the stuff that's not as mobile, but there's a lot of equipment that's mobile. To keep interest going and classes going, we can use the CMR, we can use the gallery outside of this room.
The
So-
room on the first floor is used quite a bit,
Mhm.
especially if you have larger ones. But this will also free up that room, because if they have the larger makerspace, they don't need to use it.
Right.
Well, and if we have to have a board meeting, let's say, in the room downstairs, that also frees that up for Battle of the Books or things of that nature.
Exactly.
Not to have to get bumped because of a board meeting or something of that nature.
Exactly, because seriously, to me, Battle of the Books is a priority.
I fully agree.
But not meaning to interrupt you, but I'm going to. I do hear complaints when I'm in the library, which is quite often, from people who use the lower level about the noise level. Granted, they're only in the teen section for a certain period of time. So I do feel we need to consider that, if not this time, the follow,
I-
do a phase 2.
Yeah,
That
I fully
is-
agree with you. I think that the teen, I'm not saying we should never touch the teen, let me clarify that right now. The teen underground definitely needs a remodel, a rework, the furniture, the carpet, everything needs to be, top to bottom, needs to be done and needed to be reworked with the acoustics in the ceiling and stuff like that they explained to us. But we do have a lot of projects and a lot of things, from parking lots to potential, if we look into a satellite location at Gulf Mill, to all these other, the bookmobile, we have to, and we have the strategic plan that's gonna come back and tell us.
Yes.
So this has been a hot topic. Makerspace has been hot for a long time now. The numbers are here, 23% being left off. I'd even probably say it's probably closer to 35 to 40% of people that don't even put their names on a waiting list.
I would agree with that.
And then that gets people in the door. And to go to Carolyn's point, Gulf Mill may bring us more because there's gonna be apartments and condos above there.
That's my.
And so there's a lot of, and there's also down on Milwaukee, right past,
White
Playbook,
Eagle.
they're right by White Eagle, they're putting condos over there.
Right.
And then they're also putting, right by, Export Fitness, there's another building going up with condos over there also. So there is gonna be a lot of influx of families and people moving into these condos that aren't gonna take up a lot of space, and they're just gonna be in buildings. You know, this study rooms, I wish we could do a whole floor of study rooms. I really wish we could. We don't have that kind of space. But I know that we could free up the big room down on the first floor. We could free up a lot of space over here. I think that doing something is a must, that's in my opinion.
So we are ready to take a vote?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised project for $957,000. I would like to put somewhat of a cap on this, on the dollar amount.
Okay,
So,
Rich?
just to go back a little bit, this is an estimate for the project areas. What the next step the board needs to take is to approve the architects to move forward to create plans to go out to bid
That's what I'm
for
talking
these
about.
project areas.
Okay.
And then, once we're ready with bid documentation,
Solid number and everything.
well, no, just bid documentation, which would include the plans, would include all the specifications, would include, you know, the information of it's gonna be out for 2 months for bidding, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Walkthroughs, that will go to the board so you know when that's gonna happen. Then it's, if there's any changes in between, you know, we don't want the wall, we want half a wall here, or whatever, you know.
Okay.
We'll go back and forth and collaborate, until we get the bid set. Then, that will go out to the public, and, we'll have a hard date. You know, this time, everything needs to be submitted, then the bids are open publicly. Our architect will go through that with us, evaluate them, create a matrix, and say, this is the lowest, to the highest bid, lowest qualified, and so on and so forth. And then we'll bring that to the board and
Okay.
say, this is the lowest and qualified bid that we are recommending, just like with the roof project.
Yes,
And
understand.
then the board can decide, yes, we will honor and award a contract for so-and-so construction for this.
Okay.
So the next step is really just to allow the architects to draw up the bids, documentation for the particular sections of the project that you want.
Okay,
So you can just call it the lower level project as revised.
So that's what I was,
So what
okay,
I
so.
would say is,
I-
I move to,
I got it.
yeah,
He's
no,
I'd
no.
like-
handling it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised second version of the downstairs remodel to include the tech desk, classroom, makerspace, and 4 study room areas.
I second. I was gonna say.
You did
Wait a
say,
minute, wait a
thank
minute.
you.
4 study room areas?
Yeah, these 4 the green.
It's the green one here.
So we're,
So he's leaving out the teen center, or the
And
teen,
the study rooms
Study
on the
rooms
external
other
wall.
side.
yeah.
so because they already exist on the external wall, or we're taking them out?
They exist differently, where we will leave them untouched as opposed to shrinking the teen office and adding a study room along that wall.
That would
We're
be-
getting 4 here instead of just 1 here.
Yeah, and that would be.
All right.
if
We're gonna
we could-
shrink our
If
computer
you
usage.
think it's enough.
It's what it's doing, Carolyn, is it's really shrinking our computer usage, and if you look on this page, our
Mhm.
computer usage is going down.
Yes.
So it's shrinking the computer usage, but we still do have laptops and stuff that people could still use in study
Mhm.
rooms. It's just gonna reduce the physical
I
old
just
school
don't-
looking desktop computer.
No, I get it. I just didn't wanna lose a study room, but
What-
it's your call. You'll leave the
technically,
office.
You gain here versus, you're gaining here versus,
Okay.
yeah, you're
All
gaining,
right.
you're gaining somewhere,
All right,
so.
thank
The
you.
thing
No
is,
problem.
the original one, we had a few more study rooms.
We gained
One more.
3 instead of 2.
Well, yeah, because it was configured differently. That could be, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, a phase 2.
That could be revisited, absolutely.
All right,
There's a
thank
motion.
you. Sorry for
Discussion's
that.
over.
I did want to ask Rich a question. Rich, the projected costs here is 957,000.
Correct.
Do you see this as a realistic, doable number in terms of the expense?
Here's what I can tell you. When we did the roof, the second time, right?
It was less.
We went from $500,000 all the way up to close to like 800,000 for the same work. So when you have to go out to bid, which we are bound by Illinois state statute that we have to go to bid, it can go all over the place. This is the estimate that they think. I'm hoping that it's gonna be lower, so.
Right, well, that's what I was gonna get to, because out of everyone in this room, you know this
Yeah.
building better than anyone else, right? And, like, I had asked before, is there gonna be any load-bearing walls that need to be moved?
No.
And you mentioned no.
There's no load-bearing walls in the lower level, other than the exterior. The interior is all column-based, so those columns are all staying, we're not moving any columns.
Right. There was some conversation about a sink. Would that involve some dredging and?
Yeah, approximately, maybe like 3-4 feet from the wall. So that's about all that we're thinking. Because there's existing plumbing there that was abandoned 10 years ago when we remodeled to the existing layout.
Okay, and the electrical, that's already there, right? I mean, I don't
Yeah, so
anticipate.
there's gonna be electrical work, there's gonna be plumbing work, there's gonna be all the trades, right? The HVAC, mechanical, fire protection. All that has to be touched so that it's within code, so that, yes, for example, sprinklers, you have to have sprinklers in each room. Right now, it's a general area, so we have to add 2, but the 2 that exist in that area will have to be moved so they're positioned where they need to be inside of the 2 rooms. So all 4 of those study rooms have the proper. So that's where the sprinklers are gonna be, but sprinklers like, for example, in the other room, that's gonna be the makerspace / classroom with a switch. That should probably all stay the same, because it's going to have a portable wall, so the sprinklers are gonna be above that. So, but there might be some sort of changes depending on how the wall mechanism works. So those details are gonna come out into the bid set in order to have the general contractors who are gonna bid on this give the appropriate information as to this is the cost for this space, or this is the cost for all the HVAC work. This is all the cost for the electrical work and whatnot.
Well, and Roberto, I'm sorry.
Yes, I mean, there's electric there that more than likely is gonna be moved, but there's probably new electric that has to be run from Linear's panel.
But there's also like, we have to think about this, like, Rich mentioned it, I think perfectly, is, everything's gonna come back to us after it goes out to bid and everything. If, let's say that glass wall, which sounds really cool and really awesome, let's say that's, and I'm just using round numbers, let's say it's $100,000 more than a regular wall, maybe we have to dial that back to not have a glass wall and have a regular partition wall, and just figure it out. There's different ways that we could look at that once it comes in, but at least this lets the architects go out and do the whole process
And
and
they
get
can
it.
put that just like the roof as an option, right? So we know that this area, for example, we'd like to have windows in some of the study rooms, but we can say option with windows, option without. And then we can see what that price is and.
So we could go with like a good, better, best again, just like we did with
Sort of,
it.
yeah.
Sort of, so we have that option also.
Rich, can I ask you a question
Yes.
when you're done?
Yes.
This is a little topic, but I'm thinking, we create like a media lounge, like set up a media lounge area where headphones and screens and dedicated to stream audiobooks and everything in that area, in that little area that we have over here. Hold on.
Which area?
Hold on, I'm getting my page here.
Are you talking about by the teen
By the
collection?
teen collection?
There's not really the space there. If you you've ever been in
So
there?
they
There's not
actually
really
have like a little
space.
study area there now with some tables that we repurposed from other locations.
Okay.
And they have, they're starting a collection down there for, remember what area I was speaking for, is in that corner?
Isn't in that section where they have a lot of the anime stuff?
It was like health, you know, mental health and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
They have plans for that area. We're
Yeah.
also adding, that collection is growing, so along the east wall, we already have plans this year that that the board approved in the general furniture budget to expand shelving in there. So, as well as a credenza when you walk into the digital services space. So-
That's a great idea to
Not
think about
only
for a
that-
when the strategic plan comes up, so that's a great idea.
I mean,
But that area has a lot of columns.
Yeah,
That's the
real-
one
the
area
hardest part
down there that has the
So
most
many
columns, so you're
To
kind of,
support the second floor.
yeah, you're kind of
Who needs a
restricted.
second floor?
well, because I'm just thinking, because you have audio books, you can implement that, then you can change the screen and show them what's new and what other techniques are out there, and I think there'd be a great film area too, to coordinate with all the young kids.
There's
we
not
have-
really the space.
We have a parking lot for strategic planning ideas, and I can note that down. There are other libraries that in their study rooms, each one is equipped with like a smart screen where you can do business of that nature, and you can check out from the desks audio equipment like headphones and cameras and things of that nature, that we could expand our library of things to accommodate. So that's something I can talk to Sarah about, but we could upgrade our study rooms if we wanted to. And I think that's a great idea.
That's a section of the library I tend to be in quite a bit, so for my personal opinion, it's smaller than you think.
So just, can I ask a quick question? So in terms of the in terms of the cost of, this project, we are not going to even mention that the board is looking at 957,000 or under 1 million?
I mentioned that that's what the total cost of, the projected total cost. We don't know anything like Rich just explained to us until we go out to bid. And we
But what
actually-
I'm saying is, before they submit, all of these contractors know each other, they have their process
Yeah.
of submitting bids. Shouldn't we as a library at least say, we were projecting under 1 million, let's see what you can do, but at least let them know, we're not looking for a 2 million.
Well,
Well,
Dollar
we
cost.
really want the $800,000 bid,
The architects.
so we'd rather
That's
just
a
kind of
good
leave it,
point.
leave it,
All right.
leave it ambiguous, so
To
the
me,
guy
as
comes in
a
on
as a
it,
board,
less.
we'll look at that stuff when it comes back to us. Let the architects do what they're supposed to do, and let them go out with contractors and let them figure it out, and let them bring it back to us. If it's all out
So
of whack,
again, okay. All of the architects can legally do, and you can.
So we go out to bid.
Is, yes, we're gonna go out to bid as a library district. The architects we hired, our architects, we're telling them now, as a board, you're telling them, go ahead, start with the bid documentation, the bid set, so that we can legally go out to bid.
okay,
The
so,
bid has to be sealed. It cannot, there's no discussion.
I get that part.
Yeah, so.
What I'm saying is, until that comes back to us, talking about how much this is gonna cost and that, we don't
Right.
know until that comes back.
Exactly.
And at that point, if the bid is, if we, us as a board feel the bid is way out of whack from where it was, we have to revisit. Again, like the glass wall or upgrading the windows, there's different ways to cut project
Certain things
costs.
for example, if we know we want these tables, you can say, we want these tables, and we know roughly what those kind of costs are. And we can say that we already have, with certain, like, for example, LFI is a company that we have a cooperative purchasing contract. And if we want to continue with LFI because it matches all the other furnitures and styles, we can put that into the bid set and say, we'd like to have the general contractors use LFI as a vendor because we have that as.
Yeah, with all due respect, Rich, that's going way deeper into the weeds
Right,
than
that's
we
fine.
need to know as a board at this
I
point, at this
think-
particular
I think we
moment.
should just move forward and
Let's
vote. I
just
think
vote.
everybody,
Yeah.
we're arguing about the details right
Well,
now.
1 second, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Rich, can I ask one more question? In terms of outlets and things, we'll have a lot more outlets for like Wi-Fi and all those connections and for kids to actually
USB-C.
scope out. and charge their phones and all those other things as well, right?
We're not touching the teen area in the updated proposal,
Okay.
so we're updating the classroom and the
Just the
makerspace, and
makerspace?
we'll have enough power outlets and storage for the equipment that we have or
Okay.
plan to buy.
All right, can we go ahead and vote?
Okay. May I?
Sure.
Make sure she's what got it worded right.
Because you worded
Sure.
it, and I want to make sure we
Yeah.
have this right. So I can do a couple of things. I can either listen back to what you said and when I do it, or if you'll bear with me, if this is acceptable,
Yeah, please, go.
please adjust it accordingly. So basically, you amended to approve, let's see, the revised second remodel of the lower level of the, I'm doing it how it was presented, of the library by Product Architects. And I would include, let's see, which include makerspace classroom, 4 study rooms, 4 new study rooms, tech desk, credenza,
And the tech desk, that's it, those are the
The
four.
tech
those-
desk,
that's-
yeah,
that's
that-
it.
and tech desk. I don't have to put the
Yeah,
credenza.
those are
Good.
the 4 areas.
Exactly. Is this acceptable to you, how I have written it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I
Does it
appreciate that. And you do not want me to put in the total project, total amount?
No, because there is no,
Thank you, I just
it's,
want to make
this is just
sure.
an estimate.
So that is acceptable, and trustee Kadir, you had seconded, so we are
Yeah.
all set. And trustee Kadir, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Derblick?
Yes.
Trustee Shoko?
Yes.
Trustee Patella?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Tronko?
Congratulations, Sarah. Yes.
President
Yes.
Keen? 7-0 passes. Yay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you, board.
Bravo, yes.
Can I request a break?
Yes.
Please, yes.
Oh,
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
yes.
That's
I second.
Yeah, make the motion.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion, that we take a 5-minute recess.
And
I
trustee
second.
Kadir second, because I already
9:08.
heard that's
All in
already
favor?
9:08.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
We're live.
Thank you. All right, it's 9:19. So we are back in
We
session.
have to take a roll.
President?
Okay, I'd like to make an I'd like to propose, I'm sorry, let me start slow. I'd like to make a motion, to propose updates to policy 3.14 meeting and study rooms.
To approve them?
I'd like to make I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed updates to the policy 3.14 meeting and study rooms.
I do have,
Somebody's got a second.
Second.
I do have in front of the trustees some minor edits from what was sent out in the original board packet. The edits are in red. Most of them are related to just formatting of the policy, but there were some changes after discussing the policy with staff additionally.
Oh, here's a larger one.
And just for, to notify the public, any of the additional information that's been given to the trustees tonight to consider as handouts will be posted online after the meeting.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
I believe when there's a revision to a document that we're voting on, the public needs 48 hours notice.
No, so legally, and I've asked about this from the OMA hotline, the only thing that we have to give notice on is the agenda. We actually are not required by law to send, show the public any of the attachments in advance.
But if you show them the attachment and it's incorrect and it changes what you're voting on, I think that is an issue.
Well, I show it to the board, but the public doesn't vote on this, so we can show it to the public
So
afterwards.
these documents are not included in the board packet.
Not at the moment, that's why I have given you updated revisions in front of you.
Yeah, you're
So
not
we never
required to actually.
include the
But I
documents
think-
in our.
You do, but that's a courtesy, is what
I
you're
don't
saying.
know. I
I
think
don't
once
believe
it's,
so.
if you post a board package,
No, the agenda is the only thing that is legally required to not be amended within 48 hours
Yeah.
of the meeting. I specifically asked this question of the OMA hotline several months ago. It is only the agenda that we are legally required to post.
And there's not that many changes. There are a few. And if she
Just like
posts
we
them
added-
after the meeting, because we haven't even voted on this yet. So if we vote to approve this, then it's posted for people to see it.
The reason for that is because, and again, I spoke to the OMA hotline about this. I could give you something and you amend it as a board 500 different ways, and the public still wouldn't see that in advance. That's why by law, we are not required to post these attachments. Any attachments, any additions that are presented to the board, and we've
Yeah.
done this at previous meetings.
I'm not, personally, I'm not comfortable, so I'm gonna actually withdraw my motion and let somebody else make the motion.
I will move to approve the proposed updates to policy 3.1 for meeting and study rooms.
Second,
She's right.
So number 5, number 6 is a different number 6 now, right?
And under the section for meeting rooms?
Yeah.
Yes. So the changes, if we would like to discuss them for the public on the video, on page 1 of the policy, in number 2, as a limited public forum, library public meeting, and I added the words "and study." Rooms will not be denied to any person, etc. So the words "and study" have been added on bullet point number 2 for the first section. Under the meeting room section, on number 2, I added the first sentence, which reads, "Niles Main District Library card holders may reserve a room no fewer than 7 days before a requested date and no more than 30 days in advance." That is current practice, but has not been listed in policy before. I
so
also.
no fewer than 7 days?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
For a
they
meeting
couldn't-
room,
Oh, for a meeting
for a
room.
meeting room.
Never
Yeah.
mind. 'Cause I thought,
This is,
I
so
understand.
we have the reason to, the time to set up the room.
I
and
understand.
things of that
Valerie,
nature.
you in 5, in 1B or 1C, use the word profit organizations. It should say for-profit. The
The current policy reads profit, but I can change it to for-profit, but I'd like to, keep going with the edits that
Yeah,
have been put in.
yeah,
here
no
before
worries.
we-
I'm just saying anywhere there it just says profit, it should be changed to for-profit.
Sure. I did skip under meeting rooms, under, number 1, it said first come, first serve, I added a D, so it says first come, first served. Under what was originally under number 5 in the meeting room section, should have been a completely different bullet point where it says the library's meeting rooms are designated as a limited public forum. So that has become number 6. And after civic engagement, I added the word including, just to make this more readable as far as what was welcome. And because of that change in the numbering for number 6, it changes the numbering for the rest of the bullet points in that section.
Yeah, from B to A, from C to B.
And then under the study room section, under bullet point number 1, I removed the word, after walk-in users, I removed the word must and changed it to may be asked to vacate the room upon request. And I added the words and make a reservation for the next available study room. For number 2, I added this sentence that says Niles Main District Library card holders may reserve a study room up to 7 days in advance. And those are all the changes that have been added from what was posted online.
And then, additional now, I'm proposing changing anywhere that just says profit organizations to for-profit. I found 2, but there may be more. So you see the 2 that I pointed out?
Yes, thank you. I had originally made that update and then I kept it to the original language.
Oh,
so-
there's the
no,
number
that's
2
not
right there.
Any discussion, or do we want to move to the vote? I'll give it a vote.
I don't hear anything, so I guess we're ready for a vote.
All right, let's take a vote. That was easy.
Okay, if I can just double check. So trustee Trunco withdrew his motion. Trustee Kadir made the new motion, exactly, along with trustee Rosansky seconded. And the only additional, so it is still to approve the proposed update policy 3.14 with the additional for-profit, to add
Yeah.
for-profit,
Right.
right? Do you want me to include that in there, or is that?
No, with the additional edits that's recommended
Just
by.
additional edits?
Yeah, with the additional edits discussed.
Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, so that is, trustee Kadir, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Durblick?
I'm going to abstain. I'm unclear on whether or not we could do this.
I'm
Trustee
abstaining
Trunco?
also.
Treasurer Bertello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunco? President King?
Yes.
4 yeses, 1, 2, 3 abstain. Passes.
Okay. I am going to move to approve the proposed policy for handling ICE inquiries at the library, ICE being the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department of the, or Division of the Department of Homeland Security.
Second.
Can I ask a question regarding page 76 when you have a moment?
Sure, let me get there.
Any questions on this policy?
Yeah.
I think Sue's been asked one.
What's your question?
In terms of review of warrants,
Mhm.
for step number 2, item number 1, in terms of that, how are you going to actually clarify that that's actual correct warrant signed by a judge? I mean, is there some difference that we're able to notify that it's legitimate or not, or?
So, sure, as the policy indicates, there, under step 2, number 1, examine the warrant. Ensure it is a judicial warrant. A judicial warrant is signed by a judge and typically includes a clear signature from a judge, specific locations or individuals for the search/seizure, and explicit authorization for non-public areas such as ESL classrooms. This policy indicates that we should be contacting legal counsel immediately if ICE ever does come to the library. And so legal counsel would help us determine whether the warrant is judicial or administrative.
That is stated later in the policy, right?
Stated, right
Yeah.
below it. But it even says a header such as administrative subpoena would be on the other one.
And so just to bring this to the attention of the board and for the public as far as why we're discussing this, we have English as a second language classes that are currently hosted by Oakton College. And Oakton College contacted me to ask what they should do if while they're hosting a class at the library, ICE comes into the library and comes into their classroom. And so that is when I contacted our attorney for his advisement. And he proposed and wrote out this guidance. And so that's what I'm sharing with the board.
Who was the attorney that you spoke with?
Dennis Walsh from
Was
KTJ.
Dennis Walsh? Okay. If I may, I have a question.
Mhm.
In item number 1, it says ICE cannot enter these spaces without a judicial warrant or explicit consent from library staff.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not sure that a judicial warrant carries the same legal protection as a library staff member.
What do you mean?
Well, you have to have a warrant. According to this, ICE cannot enter these spaces without a judicial warrant, which is signed by a judge. That's a legal document. Or the consent of a library staff. Now, I don't see a library staff person being in that legal position to make that decision as a judge signing a warrant, and I just don't see how that sentence
In other words,
logically gives
how
us
can a
direction.
staffer give consent? That's what she's asking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them in that position.
So
And
we
then-
could remove that language. I had concern about that language as well, so as to not put staff in that position to grant access. Legally, the way that it works, from my understanding from talking to Dennis, is that the public areas of the library being a public space, anyone is welcome there, including ICE officers. We can't do anything about that. However, there are spaces in the library that are designated as staff only. And with the newly approved meeting and study room policy, we have now removed the clause that was in our former policy that said those are open to the public. We used to have a clause in our meeting and study room policies that said all meetings were open to the public. Now, if you rent a space, that is considered a private meeting, and we can put signs up that say private meeting because it's per our policy. And so that is what makes the condition on whether it is a private meeting versus a public space. It's all about our policies. That's what Dennis said, and that's why he encouraged us to have this policy.
So where it says judicial warrant or explicit consent from the library staff, that could even be interpreted as they provided a judicial warrant, you went to Dennis, Dennis confirms it is, and now the staff member says, yes, you can go in there and do what you have to do.
Yes.
Okay, but it's not for a staff member to say, yeah, go ahead, and just go ahead, like, they're not gonna just say you could do whatever you want.
Yeah, and that's why we could, and I can ask Dennis about this too, we could remove that part of the language.
I would like to remove that part of the language.
But now, can I ask another
like
question?
that
Would that
to see.
jeopardize one of our library employees in terms of they come and arise in a situation with ICE? And,
That's why they have to consult with counsel immediately.
you know,
You just say, look, I don't know what to do, so I'm gonna go ask.
As long as
Okay,
they're
for,
respectful, they're asking
Yes.
for us to back our staff as long as they handle this respectfully, and then contact the attorneys like it suggests, and make sure everything is above board.
That is a specific question that I received from staff that I wanted to bring to the board, as far as if they are following this policy that we put in place, and they are still detained by ICE.
Staff is detained?
If staff
Yes.
is detained by
For
ICE.
Violating what might
For
be a
Because
federal
obstruction.
law.
they've been doing
Yeah.
obstruction.
Obstruction of justice?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
Wow.
if they're following everything to a T, how it's spelled out, I don't see why we wouldn't
No,
have their
I
back.
think I would
However-
say, we have their back.
However, I do want to point out, if they do curse an ICE officer out or escalate the situation in any way, that's on them.
On the
But what-
On the
second
staff.
page of the policy, under number 7, it specifically states, avoid
Don't know.
physical confrontation or obstruction, but remain firm in requiring legal review of the warrant. And staff wants to be clear, and I have told them I support them, but they also want to be clear that the board supports them. If they
Yes,
were to
we
be
do.
following this exactly and still detained. And what I have advised staff, and I will say publicly, is we do have video cameras. And I advise staff, especially in public areas, you are welcome to film. You are always welcome to film in public areas of the library. Have witnesses so that we have reports of what has happened if this ever does occur.
I fully agree. If they're following it to the T of our policy, then we have their back
If
100%.
ICE is breaking the law, then a judge.
But that's my point.
Yes,
Do we know what
Yeah.
the immigration enforcement law actually states? I mean, federal law supersedes
Right.
local
Trump-
and state
yeah,
law.
Trump's
Now,
laws.
Dennis, did he provide you with exactly what ICE's role is? I mean, I tried to look it up today, and it's like a barrage of unnecessary information. But I
This
was
is-
also in another
yeah.
meeting just recently with another organization, and ICE really does have the authority to come in and question. And our isolated situation about an ESL class being non-public, I'm not sure it meets what I was just taught at another meeting. So, and that's why I wanted to find this immigration enforcement law, which I couldn't. So we could tell our staff to do anything. We need to make sure that we're guiding them in the right direction, because if we're in violation of a federal law, we're in violation of it.
I'm happy to check with an immigration attorney on that question. I know, my wife's friend does deportations and removals, so I can just ask her.
But can
about
you get us some documentation so our staff can say it says right here?
Yeah,
you cannot
Yeah, I
do
can
this?
get that.
I mean, I'm just concerned that, there's a lot of conversations and comments going around, but which one of them really give us the legal authority to do whatever we do?
So the issues right now with a lot of things, not just ICE, sorry, is that the division between executive authority and legislative authority is kind of up in the air. The courts are, for example, I mean, this is not exactly ICE, but some of the DOJ issues, you're allowed to access one thing, but you're not allowed to access something else, and different judges are ruling different ways based on standards of proof and based on a lot of different things. So what I'm saying is, if the administration says, ICE, you can do this, and tells ICE, the federal administration, the Trump administration, right? If the administration says, ICE, go do this, it's up to a court to decide, yes, ICE actually was allowed to do that and it's within their statutory authority, or no, they exceeded their authority. So some of these things, there aren't answers for it yet. And so we're acting according to the best of our understanding, but there are no.
We're putting our staff in that position. We're not putting ourselves in that position.
we're
So I
putting
don't-
the patrons who are using our library in that situation. I worked at a school that was majority, I would say over 50% Hispanic. I'm thinking about this, thinking about all those kids and I knew some of them were illegal, although it was don't ask, don't tell. who are terrified, their families are terrified, to go to an ESL class to try and learn the language, and you're terrified, is ICE gonna come in here for no reason and bust me? Because that's the kind of stuff we're hearing on the news. I'm not saying I'm against or pro ICE, I'm just saying I'm pro giving these people a little confidence that they can come and that our staff can do according to what our attorney says, and we back them.
Well, I'm not saying, I just don't want to give them false confidence. I just want to make sure we're directing our staff correctly.
So that's why I went to the attorney regarding guidance, because staff and our vendor for ESL classes were asking what to do if ICE shows up, because right now we have no guidance.
Fair enough. I mean, if you want, I can step outside and call my wife, who's an immigration attorney, and
No,
ask
I
her
mean,
right now.
listening, no,
but,
here's my
you know,
point.
but-
We don't need to listen to anybody
Right.
else. You can do
So-
whatever you want. I'm saying, I've always, when Dennis used to give me direction, I told him, I need you to send me the statute. I want to read it myself. I want to see this in writing, because, you know, it just was
Okay.
easier. But I'm saying, I was unable, at least based on the training I just received, I was unable to agree with this. And I'm worried we're putting our staff in a position that is in violation of federal law. But I couldn't find the federal law to present it to you.
So that's-
So that's just my position.
What-
So you all can do what you
What I'm
feel
trying
best.
to, what I'm trying to say is that I'm not sure, and again, I don't know the answer to the question, I'm just speculating. I'm not sure that there is a clear federal law, that there is a statute that was passed by Congress that addresses this stuff. This is more like executive,
It's an
I don't know,
executive
see, we need to
interpretation
be sure
of.
that, there has to be something
Well,
they're
that could
moving
be
on. So if, there must be something written that doesn't give them this authority, or something that does give them the authority. We just need to
But we need to
know.
start somewhere.
But there
We
isn't,
have to have
is
something
what
in
I'm saying,
place
I'm pretty
for
sure,
staff to go
I'm
with.
pretty sure there isn't, and
Then
that's
it's
why
your
it's
call.
ambiguous.
Then it's your call, go right ahead.
Because,
We could also consider
yeah.
inviting Dennis to the next board meeting and revisiting this, if you would like to ask him questions directly.
Well,
I think that's just
but we
another
need to give,
expense.
I
we need to
think
give
it's
it, we need
prolonging
to give
it.
a
I'd rather
recommendation right
go
now,
over the
I
questions
think.
that we have and send
And
it to
then-
Dennis after we can always revise this next month, sort of like the other policy. We could always
Well,
revise
that's what
it.
I'm saying, I do have a suggested revision I actually wanted to bring up to him specifically, is that this only notes ESL classes. I would prefer it to say room rentals or meeting room rentals, so that it's broader and protects
Yes.
our new policy as far as meeting room rentals, because we could have different classes in other ways that would be considered private
Yes.
rooms.
It could be Spanish,
Okay.
we have that Spanish, for, where they have the reading, where they read Spanish stories to the,
And I do also know something that's worth consideration, because this has come up at other libraries, for example, is, at least for ESL classes, the way we would want to determine whether it is a library-sponsored program or a meeting room rental is by giving that vendor the opportunity to make that decision. Because in our new policy, if it's not a library-sponsored program, then the library does not promote it and things of that nature. So there are different pros and cons to being a meeting room use versus a library-sponsored program.
The other thing to address Carolyn's question, for example, and this is just sort of the nature of how these legal issues work. If there is a statute that talks about what is and is not allowed, I imagine that the ACLU's interpretation of that statute and the Trump administration's interpretation of that statute
Are like
gonna-
this.
Yeah, they're like, probably polar opposites. And so which one is correct? A court's ultimately going to
But
decide.
I'm not
which
looking for
one's correct.
interpretation, I just want to read the statute or the law.
Right,
Well,
I don't
technically it
know
isn't a
what
law
it is,
now,
and
is it?
from my understanding of everything I've read about this issue, the statute is not clear. That the statute does not clearly define the authority, and that's why, there's these questions that come up.
So are we feeling like we want to make changes to this, or do we want to vote on it as it is?
I'm ready to vote on it as it is.
so am I.
Can I propose the change from ESL classes to meeting room use wherever it says ESL classes?
Fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Valerie, I just want to say on item number 6, if we could change where it reads Warren until Valerie, and change it from Valerie to Executive Director.
Yes, I'm sorry, I thought I had changed that everywhere, but I will change that there too.
Thank you.
That just counts for the situation if you're kidnapped by aliens.
Okay, Margaret, when you're ready.
Okay, so I have, Mr. Kadir
Yes.
had said that he had approved the proposed policy handling ICE inquiries, et cetera, and President Keene second.
Yeah.
But should we add then with additional edits discussed?
With additional edits as discussed.
All right, Trustee Kadir, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Durback?
I abstain.
I abstain.
Trustee Schoenfeld? Commissioner Patillo?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Rosansky? Vice President
Yes.
Trumbull? President Keene?
Yes.
5 yeses, 2 abstain, and it passes.
I'd like to make a motion to update the benefits for non-union employees of the Niles Main District Library to better align with the benefits for union employees as approved by the board in the agreement between the Niles Main District Library and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 31, Local 234, ratified in November 2023.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have, I just, really, the one thing I have to ask is this everything at this point to bring the non-union staff and the union staff together? And
To align them?
why I'm asking that is because I know we did this a while back where we gave the floater holidays, and I don't want to continue to piece it together, so if this is everything, great. If it's not, then I'm gonna ask if we could table it until we do have everything in one document, because coming back to the board multiple times because we don't have one solid document isn't fair to the staff, and it's not fair to the board to keep doing that either.
This is everything we've identified by going through it. The reason why I have not brought forward an entire revised policy is because the language in all of our policies does not reflect the fact that we have a union at all. So I have to revise the entire policy manual, which will take months of work from me and Cassandra and Victoria, because none of it reflects that we have a union or that there's a separation of policies. And so this is what has been identified by us, by other staff coming to us and asking for these issues. I can't guarantee that it's everything, it's just everything that we've seen by combing through the policies. I don't see anything else that's there. But again, as we go through this, if we need to update legal language and things like that, I will have to bring that back to the
Yeah,
board.
legal language is fine, it's just if we're gonna ask for this, ask for that, and
This is everything we found so far.
Yeah, I know, but this is like the third time we've done this, so I just want, I'd like to see a full document so we could actually read front to back everything.
This is what we have.
This is everything, including the raises or whatever we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we visited
This
that
is
before.
the
The
entire
raises are voted on every year. They're not.
No, didn't we just add 4%, or would equalize non-union to union?
The
Yeah. Voted
board
on
never, the board voted on that for this year, not to, so the union contract has 3 years where they're guaranteed raises. The board never voted on 3 years of guaranteed raises. We could add that to this proposal if the board wants to do that, but that was never something.
So whatever we voted on isn't in here. This is in addition to whatever we already voted on.
The only other thing that was voted on previously were holidays, and that was because the holiday was coming up at that time.
Where are you in the policy manual? Is that what you said you're going through? Are you through
The
personnel?
personnel policy manual, I have not fully revised yet. This is
Oh.
what we've identified as benefits that are inequitable between non-union staff and union staff by reading through it. But we have to do a thorough revision of the entire policy manual to reflect the fact that there is now a union contract that only applies to some staff, and to define which staff are
But
non-union,
that would only be the personnel
the
section of our
personnel
policies.
policies.
Okay, and that's not complete yet.
No, that's not.
Okay, then to trustee Trunkel's question, there may be more.
There may be more to come up, yeah.
Mhm.
The other question I have is the longevity pay plan. Is this something that we looked at other libraries? Because we're basically doubling everything and adding a bunch more on.
This is exactly what's in the union contract.
Yeah.
I don't know what process was followed during the union contract
I
negotiation,
wasn't part of it.
since I was not here.
Some of
but-
it I wasn't either.
I would like it to be equitable between non-union and union staff.
And it should be.
And this is not a conversation for open session, but there's pros and cons to it. But I don't wanna.
This is an open session document, so this, I'm talking
Well,
about
I'm
this, I'm not
thinking to
talking
talk
you.
about the union negotiations and how we ended up
Oh,
here
the
is
union,
not for
yeah, the
here.
union contract is public at this point, so we could talk about what's in the union contract.
Yeah, I just don't know how those numbers were arrived at, but
Mhm.
those benefits already exist for the majority of our
Right.
staff.
Oh, of
We're
course,
just asking to align them for non-union
I
staff.
get it.
And these policies were also already presented to the policy committee, so they were discussed
Oh,
during that meeting as well.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
so then you're all familiar with
We,
this.
the two of us are very familiar.
Oh,
We-
okay, then
Yeah,
good.
we've discussed it thoroughly.
Okay.
All right.
Then that's a different story, I didn't know that.
Yes, this is part of the policy because we weren't gonna bring any of the policies forward until we discussed them.
All right.
All right, are we ready for a
I'm
vote?
good.
Ready? Trustee Kadir, how do you vote?
Yes,
Trustee Duvlick?
Yes.
Trustee Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Treasurer Vitale?
Yes.
Secretary Lanzowski?
Yes.
Vice President Trunko?
Yes,
And President King?
Yes.
7-0 passes.
I'd
Thank
like-
you so much on behalf
You
of
are
the
welcome.
non-union staff. We
I'd
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve adding consent agenda into the bylaws.
Second.
So last month, we did consent agenda because of the length of the meeting, and I'm not, basically, we don't have that in our bylaws that we were really even able to do that last month. So I'm asking if we could add that in, so when we do have longer meetings, or if we'd like to make things like a consent agenda, such as payment of the bills, treasurer's report, you could still always ask a question, you could still always pull it out of consent agenda and still have a conversation about it. But if we don't have any of those things, then we should be able to just put it as consent agenda and move on.
So you're saying because consent agenda is not in the bylaw, so we can't use it?
We should not be able to use it now.
Now, the attorney didn't say that when I questioned it years ago. Okay, so you found out we can't
We're
do that.
supposed, so when you do a consent agenda, you're supposed, if it's in the bylaws, great, that's how it's supposed to be. But when you do the consent agenda, you're supposed to vote on it, then it's supposed to be read into the record, all the items of the
Right, then
consent
it is-
agenda, and that's how it should be approved. So last month, we didn't do that, which is, okay, we, it's a mistake, and we'll move on from
Oh,
that. and we'll-
I see, the
We'll live and we'll
verbal,
learn, and that's why I would like to put it into the bylaws.
oh, so the
Sure,
procedure is
so-
what you're saying.
but we're not voting on what's actually being put, we're just voting on
How
putting
to-
it in the bylaws, and then we're
We're-
not gonna
So
vote
that
again.
we could, if
We're voting that
necessarily, have
we
it.
can use consent agenda if necessary.
Right, but then we're gonna have to add we're gonna have to come up with a specific language to add to the bylaws.
So my suggestion on page 88, under letter F, right now it outlines the different order of agenda items. And my suggestion for consent agenda is to include numbers 4, which is approval of the minutes, number 5, which is payment of the bills, number 6, which is the treasurer's report, number 8, which is the executive director's report, and number 9, communications and committee reports to consent agenda.
Agreed.
I don't like number 8, because then for you to talk about it, you have to pull it out of consent agenda.
You don't. So when you're voting on consent agenda, you can talk about anything that's within consent agenda during the discussion part. It just doesn't have to be a separate motion to talk about the minutes or to talk about the bills or that kind of
And
thing.
I'm okay with those items being the consent agenda.
Because like if you watch the village meeting, he'll say consent agenda, this. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? And then they
They
can,
vote and then they read it into record, but
Yeah.
I definitely know we have to read it into record, that I know.
But if you prefer to have the executive director's report out of it, I can agree with that too.
No, I think we should keep it in.
Keep it in there.
Can I just ask a question? I thought the purpose of a consent agenda was just that. You consent to approval and there's no need to talk about it.
Well, if anybody has questions, you can always have questions, and if there's questions or further discussion, you could pull it out of consent agenda and then have a full-blown discussion about it.
Yeah.
The idea is, it should work as, yes, we're paying the bills this month, we're paying, we're approving the minutes from the last thing. If you have little modifications, that's one thing, but if you have a big discussion about it, you pull it out of consent agenda, you make it, it becomes a regular item, and the rest you approve.
I do know, and just from everyone, all conversation in our area, that a lot of the residents are not happy that they claim that our village board meetings are being less and less transparent to the public because there's no conversation about voting on agenda items. So you're saying we'll put them in consent agenda, but you might still talk about them?
If
If
somebody
somebody
wants
had-
to, they
You
can.
have
If somebody-
questions?
like,
So we're
let's
not
say-
like saying you
Yeah.
can't
No, I
talk about
understand, I
anything, it can
understand.
still be brought up.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can
but
still-
you're right, because if they're not in consent agenda and nobody talks about anything, we're not adding any more information for the
All we're
public
doing
to
is,
hear
all we're
anyway.
doing is reading a motion, we
Right.
read a motion,
Mhm.
second a motion,
So
and we're
you're
just gonna
right.
keep going through the whole process. It just, instead of
Okay,
having.
no,
a reading
I get it.
constantly.
So I have another question. Why do we have to pick and choose? Can't all of these items be,
Well, new business, unfinished business, executive session, et cetera, can't,
Action
right?
items can't hardly.
Yeah, action items cannot be.
We could
Wow.
choose to.
but
put
action items
trustee-
are billed,
Yeah,
are
that's true.
checks?
Yeah, you're right, that's true.
So I'm trying to
We
understand
could go
why
4
we're.
through 9 if you want.
But
after
can't we
that-
just assume we leave it out? Oh, you wanna do something the same every month, that's why you're picking numbers. I got it, okay.
We can do 4 through 9, you could throw trustee reports in there too.
I'm okay with that.
Because it's not like it used to
Okay,
be, where
sure.
Tim was the president, he said each trustee should give a report, saying something
Well, we always have
more or
other
less
too.
positive about the library. We don't do that
We always have other also that we could always talk to.
Which is true,
Also.
which is true.
Okay, I get it now.
Should I revise
Thank
my
you.
motion?
Sure.
Trustee reports and executive director report are not action items, so we could leave them out in case there is discussion, because sometimes there is, sometimes they're not. And then we could do 4, 5, 6, and 9.
So, it's not about action items.
Yes.
It's about routine items.
Routine
Anything
items, yep.
routine could be in the consent.
Yeah, I'm
If
okay
it's
not
with 4
routine,
through 9.
Then it shouldn't, because there's more discussion.
There's more discussion, yep.
It changes,
Yeah.
we're not always buying equipment or doing lower level remodeling.
Yeah.
But that's really not.
You promise? We're not gonna always do
Well,
Not every
somebody
month?
promised. It changes, the circumstances behind those action items
Yeah.
change. The circumstances behind
The report.
Paying the bills, yeah.
Always are paying the bills.
I'm okay
It might be
going
for
4 through
different
9.
budget
4 through
lines,
9?
But it's always paid.
Yeah, 4 through 9.
I'd
Four
like,
through 9,
so
just-
do I need to revise my motion?
I don't even know what it was.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to add consent agenda into our bylaws, with, under organizational meetings, letter F, items 4 through 9 to be included in that.
Do you need to
No.
mention what 4 through 9 are, or
No.
just leave it 4 through 9?
F 4 through 9.
F 4 through 9. Well, I'll just state it for the record, for the
I
public.
did read it out
Okay.
before.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to amend this to approve the proposal to add the consent agenda to the bylaws. And what's it called? Organizational meeting, items F, and items 4 to 9 to be included.
F 4 through 9.
F?
So F and then sub 4 through 9.
Second. Organizational meeting, items F, there you go, wrong spot. 4 through 9 to be included. That's it, okay?
I'm lost.
Okay, we're all set?
Wild West.
Yep,
I can say. Trustee Kadir?
yes.
Trustee Derblick?
Yes.
Trustee Schoenfeld? Treasurer Vitello?
Yes.
Secretary Rosansky?
Yes.
Vice President Trunko?
Yes.
And President King.
Yes.
7-0 passes.
Hooray.
Now it's on.
Is there any other?
No.
Let's go, guys.
Is there any other?
No?
No other. Is there a
Oh,
mo-
there is one.
Uh-oh.
Victoria, can you talk about the art reception, please?
Oh, yes. On Saturday from 3 to 5, we're going to be having an art reception for the current exhibit out there. And they'll bring in a live violinist, so we're gonna have live music and, yeah. So, join us.
Lovely.
No, I
It
work.
it is nice because a lot of times they do
Thank you.
have musicians, and it is nice.
I guess, I know that, the fandom on Sunday, I know that we're looking for volunteers. 'Cause
Yes.
My daughter just got the email from Maine East, that,
Right.
to National Honor, so if anybody needs volunteer hours, please come sign up and come down and help, so.
Be great.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the February 19th meeting at 10 PM.
Second.
Okay, Suzanne.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. You